actually falling. I'm saying, where's the magic happen?
I don't really understand what you're asking. I would like to see him cite his sources that I think I know what he's talking about, but it's just because the airplane is 30,000 feet up. But I would like to see this demonstration.
Yeah, but you can't go in a straight line above a globe without raising an altitude. Like if you were on an airplane 30,000 feet up, if you were going in a straight horizontal line, I mean, essentially you'd fly off into space. It's whatever, but you know what I mean. You would be going up higher off of the globe, so you would have to curve around. Like he said, it's a larger radius if you're up higher, so it's more than 8 inches per mile squared. So here's the documents from that, real quick. Here's the documents from that video. That's the front page, so you could probably look it up in the full document. He didn't really have the full thing, but that's the first page. And then he shows the pitch data. So apparently this is the actual graph. So you see there the pitch one, the orange one, and then I grabbed a few of these screenshots. This one shows it zoomed in. So you notice that pitch data is level.
Wait, where are you posting this, Gio? Where are you posting
the live stream one text?
Live stream one.
So there's the pitch data.
Okay. All right. And
it appears to be horizontal. It doesn't appear to be that it would be curving around a sphere the way that's claimed to be.
No, but I already told you the reason why. So they got to 30,000 feet and they fly horizontally.
But that would make them raise in altitude. They would go 30, 31, 32, 33. If they were
they adjust a little bit. You can see little blips on this.
Yeah. Welcome to the Flat Earth, Raven. Welcome to Flat Earth, Raven. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Yeah, you didn't prove anything, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have it. We've proven it here. This data is crucial when we're talking about compensation for anyone who may have been injured on that flight, for example. We take it to court. We want to see the characteristics of the airplane. Here it was. It was flying level at this time. There was no curvature, no drop in altitude or anything. Slam dunk. Goodbye, Raven.
You can see the blip on your own graph.
What blip are you referring to?
Okay, look at the red. So that's like a little small.
All right, so what you want to look at is the orange because that's the pitch data. Try and focus here, buddy. Like instead of being so aggressive.
Yeah, what? You from New York? You from New York?
Focus on the pitch data because that's the topic of discussion, right? And then you can look at the altitude pressure, right? For your elevation. You can try and wrap your head around that.
All right. So do you see the orange, where there's little blips in that too? Do you see that?
Nope.
Yeah, but those blips, I mean, it would not be understandable that the pitch of the plane would have some inconsistencies, but we're looking for a consistent drop over a curved Earth is what should be present.
It's the captain actually making changes while they fly. Right? Really small changes.
Are you serious? Is this guy trying to say that captains make adjustments while the plane flies? Are you serious, buddy?
They used to, but now it's automated. Yeah.
No. Listen, brother. Do you know what trimming a plane is?
Dude, do you want a knuckle sandwich?
Dude, trimming a plane has nothing to do with the plane, with the curve of the Earth. It's you're finding a level flight path by
You guys are finding every excuse to say it's a flat Earth.
There's the Earth's not flat, but it's a misnomer. There's hills, valleys, and so forth. So stop using flat Earth as a term. It's a misnomer. The Earth is stationary and planar. That's an objective truth. And when you trim a plane, it actually is fundamental to the fact that the Earth is planar. That's why you trim a plane. It matches the horizon to the plane. So when you fly your plane, you have your nose right pointed at the horizon. If it's above or below, you're going to either elevate or descend. You don't want that. You want to trim your nose to the horizon. This is how you fly level. This is just an objective.
Do you have nose hairs?
It's just an objective reality. It has nothing to do with any claim that the shape of the Earth. It's just an objective truth.
Okay,
so your observed reality. Your observed reality is a planar stationary surface. This is just objectively true.
What if it is a sphere? What if that happened?
Oh, it's such a waste of time. Just ran from the whole trip.
Yeah, you just diverted from the whole thing. Let me try to steel man what maybe you were saying, Raven, to try to give you as much credit as I can on what you were saying. Are you trying to claim that the plane would go like above a globe Earth, that it would go in a horizontal straight line, and then they would make a little adjustment like down, and it would go in another straight line for a while, then another adjustment down, another straight line, like a series of straight lines? Is that what you were attempting? Okay, so where is that in this data? Because the data looks all level planar except for just little blips up and down. So where wouldn't it be a blip down and then it would be at a different pitch? It's not showing that. It's showing blips in comparison to a level horizontal line.
All right. So they go up, they go to 30,000 feet, and they have little adjustments, and then they go down. You can see that.
But the whole that whole line is level all the way across.
There's I know it is.
Little blips up and down, but it's not angling. It's not changing pitch and then staying at a different pitch.
Once you're at 30,000 feet, you don't have to. That's nothing to do with the curvature of the Earth.
Here's a better question for you. Here's a better question for you. Can a pilot operate a plane in a level position without a gyroscope, without any indication? A mechanical machine. Can a plane fly level without any kind of mechanical like gyroscope or any kind of leveling instrument? Can a plane fly level?
Oh, you mean manually?
No, without any gyroscope. Can you fly a plane level?
Sure.
And how is it done? I know how it's done, but how do you think it's done?
Why don't you go ahead, since you're the expert?
Not an expert. I've been taught. So again, I'm asking you. You said yes, but how?
Why don't you go ahead?
I'm clarifying. I'll clarify the question again.
No, I understood your question. I said you answer it.
Why would I want to answer it when it's a question to you?
Hey, dipshit! I fucking told you to answer it. So fucking do what I say or shut your fucking mouth. You understand that?
No, it seems that you don't understand. It seems like you don't understand. So you just acknowledged that a plane can fly level without any instrumentation. Do you agree?
Muted, dude.
I didn't hear that. What?
You want to get server muted? You want to get banned?
Dude, I don't give a shit what you do, dude. I don't give a fuck your lame threats. Get the fuck out of here.
All right, just answer your own fucking question then, or get the fuck out of my space.
I already asked you the question. Answer it. Stop being a little pussy.
I said go ahead.
Stop being a little pussy and answer the question. Can you fly a plane level without instruments?
I want to see what you say, and then I'll counter it.
I'm asking you clearly. This is now like the sixth time I've asked you.
You already heard my conditions.
Okay, you said yes, correct? The next follow-up question to you was, how is it done? Can you answer?
Go ahead.
I'm asking you, how is it done?
I already said you fucking tell the story.
No, I'm asking you a question. You seem to think that a plane.
So you seem
to think. You seem to think
ask questions. I'm just going to answer everything you say. Absolutely not.
You seem to think.
You made a fucking claim. You have the burden of proof. You fucking prove it.
Objection, Geo. Objection, Geo. Raven's obfuscating. Can we get him to answer the question, please?
He already conceded that yes, you can level out a plane and fly level without instruments. He conceded to that, correct?
Yes, that is true.
How is it done?
How is it done? Aviation.
Aviation, great. So can you elaborate? Aviation, it's done through aviation.
I'm not going to elaborate.
You don't know.
No,
admit you don't know, and I will.
Maybe you don't know. I said, why don't you explain it?
Admit you don't know, and we'll move forward.
No. How about you can go fuck yourself? How about that?
So you don't know, or you do know?
I do know. You do. But I'm not going to tell you.
Make it really easy for everybody listening instead of being emotional.
I'm not. No, you know what? I'm not. And how about you make it easy for everyone else?
So you're being very emotional.
You have the burden of proof. You made a claim.
It's not my proof. It's not my claim. It's not my proof.
Burden of proof, and you're putting it on me.
It's not the burden of proof. You already answered. You already answered a plane
claim, dude.
You already made a concession that a plane can be flown level without any instruments. There's only one possible way that you can do it without instruments.
And what is that? What is that way? God?
Is that flat Earth data? Is that flat Earth data? You sound like flat Earth data.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Hey, Data, I can I take a guess? I don't know much about aviation, but I'm assuming you're going to say he has to look at horizon, right?
Sorry, what's that? I missed that. What was that?
He has to look at the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, Data, maybe, I don't know where you guys are at, but that was kind of a mess. Do you want to just finish your point? You're saying flying it without instruments. So what, maybe just...
I asked him a question. Can you operate an aircraft and fly it level without any mechanical instruments?
Well, it's not no mechanical instruments. But yes, you can
replied,
actually fly a Cessna.
He replied yes. And then I asked further, I said, well, how is it done then? If the answer is yes, how is it done?
But the thing is, Data, just do your thing. He's not interested in answering your question. So just...
I don't need to give the answer. We'll leave it for people who are listening, if there's anybody, to go and find it out themselves. Because
you don't know what the fuck you're talking.
Because the answer is that I didn't invent it. I didn't come up with the reason or the procedure. It's taught in pilot schools, taught in aviation for emergency purposes. The reality is there, but there's one underlying principle of why it works, and that's all I want you to understand.
All right, go ahead. Why don't you tell the class then?
But it's not. I'm not an instructor. I'm just questioning your beliefs.
Hold it all to yourself. So you're an entitled little bitch, and you're gonna hold the information yourself like an elitist little cunt. Is that what you do? Is that your MO?
If you don't know how to answer questions when asked,
you don't know how to fucking answer questions, Joe. I said you have the burden of proof. You're like, you know what? No, I don't. I just made a claim.
It's not my claim. It's what's taught in aviation.
Yeah, let's just chill for a second, dude. All the insults are really not needed at all. And I could remove you from the conversation, but then you'll be out of the combo. So if you want to finish this, I guess I won't remove you. If you can please stop. All the insults are just distracting to the actual point. So he's just saying, do you think you can fly a plane and keep it level without instrumentation? Would you like to respond to that, Raven, without being interrupted?
I said yes, you can. It's not complete without no instrumentation, but you can do it with a Cessna. You can do it with manually. If that's what you mean.
Then how would you fly
a one. Yeah, exactly.
How would you do it then? How would you do it without instrumentation?
So no, I don't want to get into specifics. I want to hear his point though.
Okay. So
no,
I guess
it's not specific.
So go ahead and respond now, Aeon.
So it's not. I'm not going to give him the answer when he's already conceded that you can fly. Meaning, if he says that you can fly without instrumentation and be level, he must know the answer to it. The fact that he doesn't want to answer is not up to me to entertain the fact he doesn't want to answer. We have to have him answer to continue forward because he obviously implies you can do it, but how?
Well, just to push the conversation forward because it's just getting a bit circular. I said, perhaps they just look at the horizon. Is that right? That was just guessing. I don't know.
Well, that would be probably what you would have to rely on for horizontal and level. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. So you don't just look at the horizon. All right.
You look from left wing. You look from left wing to right wing, and you match the horizon. That's one principle of doing it.
I want to hear what you have to say.
Just told you have two wings.
The horizon, is that it?
That's what you were taught in school in aviation, buddy.
Yeah, but is that it?
You were given an answer, and now you're saying, is that it? What else do you need?
Because that's absolutely not it. So you don't just follow the horizon. You can actually follow in a straight line, even if you can't see the horizon, even if it's a cloudy day. Okay? You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I know, I'm sorry for
Listen, buddy. The horizon is pertinent to flying horizontal without any instrument. Now, if you want to talk about cloud cover and no visible horizon, now we're changing the conversation. You can fly level with a glass of water. You can fly level with a glass of water if you have no horizon.
Cloud cover.
Okay? No, again, you're trying to change the conversation. The conversation started with a question, which was, can you fly a plane without, let me rephrase, you can fly a plane horizontal and level without an instrument? The answer is yes. And how they teach you is with your wingtips to the horizon. You have to have a visible horizon. The other way is with a glass of water with no visible horizon. Do you disagree with those two claims?
Thank you very much for your input, Flat Earth Data. Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff.
Well, you might want to get the book, The Great Delusion of the 21st Century. It's definitely hilarious. It's not perfectly written, but it's written perfectly for what it is.
I've got a question for you, Flat Earth Data. Are you aware of the fact that pilots also, when they want to get nighttime rating, that some of them flying a Cessna, that's all been, the windows have been blackened off. It's the daytime, but the windows have been blackened off, so you can't see anything. And then you listen to the control tower and you rely on your instruments only. Are you aware of that fact? And
Correct.
that's part of their night. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent. Because some people are not aware of that, you see. That's the beauty of flight, ladies and gentlemen, that you cannot see anything. You follow your instruments, you will land safely. Yeah, just amazing.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, before there's instruments that you can actually rely on, people have flied level since, the 1900s. And so
Thank you, ladies and
what you're
gentlemen.
saying
Level.
is absolute garbage.
Yeah.
And yet, what
Thank
you're
you.
saying about
Level,
water is actually
level
true. What you
horizontal,
said
ladies and
when you can
gentlemen.
look at a
Level.
glass of water was actually true. So that's why, you stay level, right? That's why, a level has a bit of water in the middle, right? That was actually true. It was the first thing that came out of your mouth that was true. The
wingtip to wingtip is also true. I've been in pilot school. I've applied
okay,
these
good for you.
practices. Okay, so again, doesn't mean the Earth's a sphere. Doesn't mean it's perfectly flat. It means that have no idea what you're talking about.
No. I do. I've also heard those things, but I'm just saying you don't need them. Like, you can actually fly level without that knowledge.
Oh, okay. So go ahead and explain how.
Well, like you said, that the water thing was actually a really good example.
You don't have water. You don't have water. It's a cloudy covered day. Your instruments are gone. What do? There's one fail system in all planes, by the way. It works off of air. But what happens? What happens when there's
Okay, so now you're trying to test my knowledge of aviation, and so this is completely not on the subject. So you're trying to get a gotcha moment, aren't you?
No, that's what you're doing. That's why you're projecting. No, I don't give a fuck about a gotcha moment because I have no dog in the fight. I'm just about objective truths and starting from the ontological primitives of reality. That's all I care about.
When were you indoctrinated into the flat Earth? Was it 2018 or when was that? When did the PSYOP take?
So I wrote a book originally called Flat Earth Data, and I changed the name. So you can go look it up. It's all documented. It's called The Great Delusion of the 21st Century on Amazon. Go look it up. You might be very entertained.
Yes, that absolutely is delusion. It's a really big troll. Okay.
What is the delusion that you claim to live in an environment that's spinning but have no detection for it, and then a world that curves at a rate that you also base your reality on an unfalsifiable number? Or let me correct that: you can actually falsify the radius now with a simple observation. So that you have numbers that represent the model, but the thing is that where is that representation in reality? I don't give a shit what the shape of the Earth is. I just care about the ontological primitives and where philosophy, epistemology, solipsism, all that stuff derives from claiming to know something that's outside of your senses. So you think the Earth's a sphere, but you'll never see it. You'll never exit the reference frame of Earth to determine it for yourself. You have to rely on a subset of authority that you deem to be smarter than you. That is what's called the Great Delusion of the 21st Century, because it removes the critical thinking.
You're hyperventilating, man. Take a breath.
It removes critical thinking. It removes critical thinking. Okay, number one, when you rely on other people.
Yeah, okay.
The Great Delusion is relying on other people,
You're
buddy.
relying on a PSYOP, all right? So I can talk just like that as well. Yeah, I can be condescending. You know what? I can actually talk
you claim a PSYOP. Hold on, you made a claim. You made a claim.
You know what? Do you believe in the firmament? The firmament? So we can't go to space? Do you not believe in space?
So man can't leave Earth by biblical description alone.
Oh, okay. In Psalms
115, 16, it clearly says
I heard there's a firmament, yeah.
No, it has nothing to do with firmament.
Hold on, let me get in the middle here. Hold on. Everyone's over talking each other. Let's just try to go one at a time, guys. Try to be concise and short with your responses so the next person can get in, please. Thank you.
Anyway, something I want to say is that we've had nuclear rockets for a long time, since the 60s, that can go close to the speed of light. Okay, and they actually can go to space. We have satellites.
You have rockets. Okay, so there's a website you can go to. It's a military website. They've got missiles that go about 11,000 miles an hour. So you show me where the rockets go close to the speed of light. You show me on that
look
website.
Up nuclear-powered rockets that can go close to the speed of light.
So nuclear power, you're talking about a chemical reaction, right?
Hey, you should see this thing that I saw on Rick and Morty.
So the chemical reaction has to have something supplied to it, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just have a reaction without something happen, right?
Yeah. So we have that reaction before it goes into space. Do you understand that? Or are you fucking retarded?
Right. Okay. So it goes into space. Where does it go into space, and what's the purpose for it?
So it leaves the outer atmosphere.
Raven, we can't do that. We can't start calling names, bro. Like, it's just gonna send the whole chat into a freaking frenzy.
Okay. All right. I mean, are you okay? Okay. But anyway, it leaves the outer atmosphere, and so it already has the propulsion, and then it keeps going, right? So
it's propulsion. It's propulsion driven. Why is it propulsion driven?
Are you okay? Okay. But anyway, it leaves the outer atmosphere, and so it already has the propulsion, and then it keeps going, right? So
it's propulsion. It's propulsion driven. Why is it propulsion driven? That seems to be archaic technology. It seems to be the big struggle with propulsion.
I don't care if you
is that it's limited. It's limited technology. This is primarily why man can't go to other planets. Is because the propulsion technology doesn't work.
All right. So have you ever had a telescope and looked at other planets?
Now we're going to go to telescopes. Tell me what a telescope does to me, other than I see an object that I cannot verify how far away and the size.
Is that a planet though?
What is a planet?
You said you used the word planet. So is that a planet?
What is a planet? Let's just break down words. What is a planet?
Planet? So why don't you explain what you meant?
I'm just using your language back on you.
No. You said planet. Like you're the one that said planet first. So what is a planet?
You said, do you have a telescope to look at planets?
So when you look at Mars, or when you look at Venus, when you look at Jupiter or whatever else, what shape is it?
So reification is what you're inferring now. It's because I look at Mars and I look at Jupiter, therefore the Earth is round. Is that what you're implying?
No, but what shape is it? Can you just respond?
I just said
it's round. It's actually round. I mean, you imply a sphere. You imply a sphere, but I can actually create the same effects with a lens on just about any object. So
all right, so it looks round.
You can't actually verify, right? You can't quantify the statement. You can make the statement, and you can be allegorically correct in your assessment that it appears that way. But there's absolutely no substantive proof.
I'll give him an actual exercise. I'll give him an actual exercise, and anybody listening can do this. If anybody has access to a telephoto zoom lens camera,
dude, you want to fucking
anybody
metal?
has access to a telephoto zoom camera like P900, P1000, they can do a terrestrial example of how deceiving optics can actually be. Meaning, you can film a light in the distance, and let's say your camera's slightly out of focus.
Dude, don't give head to the mic, okay?
So listen. You can take your camera, you can film an object in the distance, particularly like, let's say, a street light. The street light isn't round, but because your camera doesn't have the highest resolution or whatever, it's actually going to appear spherical. Quite interesting, right? When you zoom in and you actually focus in, you'll see that the street light is... Hold on, I'm almost done, buddy. This is a practical example that anybody can do. Take a known object in the distance that you know is not circular, go away from it, film it with a telephoto zoom lens, blur it out a little bit, all of a sudden it'll look circular. The light will look circular, but actually the light source is not coming from a circular object. So I don't know if you know that, but now you do know that. You can actually go test that claim.
He just got cooked, bro. He got cooked and popped and left.
I didn't mean to ruin the conversation.
No, it's just, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, the Globers seem to be resorting to tactics, instead of just having an honest conversation. Like, if they were confident in their position, like we wouldn't have to be dealing with all the tomfoolery.
So, Dyslow, I have a question for you.
Okay.
To your present reality, the Earth appears to be stationary and planar. Correct?
Okay, yeah.
Outside of your senses, do you know what the Earth is?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's in my book, and it's only $30. So if you buy it now,
you're fucking funny. That's priceless.
time.
Good job. That's funny. Mine's not limited time. I'm just waiting for some more pages to come across my way so that I can correct my book more. But people stopped doing it. I guess they caught on.
Slow when you get a second, but you check your DMs. I sent you a message. It's not important. It's no rush. Just make sure you have a look, please. Thank you.
Oh, dang, Roger, you got a big one. Nah, I'm joking.
Yeah. Wife likes it. I've been married for 25 years. Like I said, it's not important, it was, wanted to say something because the conversation got cut off earlier and I didn't like leaving it the way that it was.
Yeah, well, some people have a little bit of a lag because they're in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that going on. And then some people, they just kind of communicate in a certain way. So, I mean, I kind of picked up on that, but
yeah. No, it's just, like I said, I wasn't challenging. I just like asking questions and shit like that. And I didn't get a chance to properly explain that because kind of got railroaded, but I get it. It's just how people are, but I didn't want to leave it like that. So that's why I sent you the message.
Yeah, no, you're good, bro. You're good. Like,
right on.
I know a lot of the personalities in here to a degree, and there was nothing out of character. I mean, you'll start seeing, the consistency within people and be able to make heads or tails and read the sentiment of the conversation as time goes on. But but yeah, I'll respond to you when I get a chance. I'm just
no rush,
on the
buddy.
side of a road here.
You're busy. You're driving and whatever. Plus, you got a busy weekend. You've already addressed it, and I appreciate it. Like I said, I just wanted you to see it.
Yeah, no.
You know what? I'm surprised. I'm surprised nobody else has written a book about this debate over the last few years.
Like, it's freaking stage just needs to be over with. I'm like freaking melting. Yeah, what was your other question? You said you had data.
Well, you had answered the first one when I asked you. You believe the Earth to be stationary and planar. That's what your reality states due to your senses, right? I asked you what is the Earth outside of your senses?
Outside my senses. You mean like from like a metaphysical perspective?
Well, the idea of something being outside is outside of your senses that you cannot sense them. So then you're left with an idea or a presupposition of what you think, or I should say a supposition of what is outside of your senses. So I'm just asking you, what is the Earth outside of your senses?
I don't know, man. I only have a terrestrial.
Thank you. That's great. No, that's great. You already answered. You said you don't know. Okay. So being that is the crux of every philosophical debate known to mankind, is when something is outside of your senses, you're left with presuppositions or philosophy or many ways to devise your philosophy by by what you think is outside of your senses. So you don't know, I don't know, majority of the world don't know, and even the ancients didn't know. But the Greek mind came by, and the Greek mind took of all the Chaldean information, all the Chinese information, Chinese astrology, all that stuff from 2,500 years ago, and they devised a methodology in testing the claims of what the Earth is that's outside of the senses. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain point. I mean, there's only so much you can test without having like an independent variable to kind of like wiggle or toggle.
Yeah, that's why you lead with a presupposition. You lead with a presupposition.
Right.
Now, have you heard?
What kind of nonsense? What kind of nonsense do you?
Have you heard? No. Because ideas come from questions, right? So if you have a question of the nature of the Earth, you're going to create ideas to either facilitate what you think, or be as honest as you can.
Dude, I asked you a question, you wouldn't respond. So
I didn't hear the question. So
you don't
there's a thing called, and I even presented this to Witsit, and nobody would address it, which I find highly.
You wouldn't answer my question, would you?
I'm almost done.
Made a claim.
I'm almost done. There's an amillary sphere. Now, who knows what the amillary sphere is?
I've heard it before, like once.
I know. Me. My hands up.
What's so significant?
You know what?
About them?
I'm not going to answer your question because you didn't answer mine. You see how that goes? It's a two-way
street. He's got to Google it. He still needs time to Google it.
What's so significant about the amillary sphere, and why the Greeks thought the Earth is a sphere eventually?
You stuttered, like you have a lisp. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
So the amillary sphere was created by the Greeks, right? They had an idea and a concept. It was a large debate with the Greeks for many, many years, from Plato all the way to Pythagoras and so forth, and then on, right? So the amillary sphere, there's one interesting attribute of the amillary sphere that anybody can test themselves. And it's very simple. All you need is a circular 360-degree protractor, if you will, with opposing numbers. 0 to 360 in one direction. You flip it over, 0 to 63 in the other direction.
Go ahead.
So here's the thing. From the dawn of time when they were measuring shadows, there is a conundrum. In other words, the Earth presents itself as a stationary planar surface, but you have opposing rotations of shadows. In other words, I could take one device, go in the north, the shadow will rotate one direction, and I go to the south and it will rotate in another direction. How do you explain that? That is it. This is the old adage, old debate from back in the day. And all I'm interested in is truth. I'm not interested in models. I'm not interested in dogma. I'm not interested in some, things because it's all about dividing. The fact is we're all going to be divided here, and AI is going to be your God. I'm not interested in that life. I'm interested in objective truths and holding institutions to those objective truths, because we'll get the evidence directly instead of dogma, religious beliefs, like people blaming the globe and Christianity are inherently wrong, considering about, 24 Christians.
You've taken up enough time. That's enough. All right.
Create the globe model.
Well, to answer your question, I think for my own personal philosophical bias, right, I think that the entire universe from micro to macro is consistent of whirlpools and vortices, not particles bumping. So that's kind of how I perceive things from, like I said, from the micro, right, consistent of vortices and whirlpools from, Lamar precession to the entirety of the universe. But again, that's my bias. I don't really have a way to validate, substantiate, or falsify it. So
all right. Enough of the circus, okay? So I'm gonna derail your conversation in a different way. So why do you see different stars on the North Pole than the South? If it's a flat Earth.
Are you going to get into what's like star convergence and divergence?
So the North Pole, you'll see different stars than the South Pole. Why is that?
Well, why wouldn't that be? Why would that be an issue? First of all, to see if you change your
if you have a camera at the North Pole and you have a camera at the South Pole, you're going to have different constellations. If it was flat Earth, then there wouldn't be a North Pole or South. Like, it would just be flat. You'd see the same constellations.
Okay, that is a what you would call an assumption based on your part, because you have no way to test your claim.
You have no way.
Well,
You have no way of testing it, right? What you've done is
to Raven. Raven, do you realize that you can see the Polaris, the North Star, from south of the equator?
Okay.
Did you know that?
You want me to show you what the South Pole looks like at the same time as the North Pole? Because I do have that video, and they're completely different constellations. All right.
And everything we see in the sky happening.
How do you explain that if it's a flat
Here's
Earth?
the
Can I
issue.
get in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to hear what Jeremy has to say. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, you're saying everything we see in the sky happening with the stars, that's actually happening, right? Is that what you're saying with this,
so
or
that's
no?
fake news too.
Sorry, what?
So that's fake news too.
I'm asking you. Are you saying that everything we see in this with the stars, that's actually happening?
Everything you see.
So is that a yes?
I don't think he understands refraction at this point.
I'm asking,
Jeremy.
Actually, I do understand refraction. Like, thank you for trying to make me sound stupid. You know what?
I wasn't even talking about
layman's
refraction
terms anymore. Like this psychogenic fallacy bullshit. I've had enough of it. Okay. So I've had enough of your fucking contention. I've enough of your fucking dissertation. Like I've had enough of your fucking lack of nuance.
Are you peeing your pants right now? Are you peeing your pants right now?
All right, listen,
you're wetting the bed, dude. You're literally wetting the bed. You don't have to sit in this bed, bro, and wet in it.
Let me mod flat Earth data. Hold on, Raven. Maybe Jeremy and Raven can have a little back and forth.
Yeah, are you telling me?
So I made a claim, and you know what? I have the burden of proof, so I can actually I can cite my sources for you guys. I can actually provide proof of that claim. So the North Pole actually shows different constellations at the very same time as the South Pole. How do you explain that?
There's different constellations in the sky. That would happen on whether it's a flat or a globe. That argument doesn't even make any sense at all. But I'd like to go somewhere with this, since we're talking about the stars.
Why does it not make it?
Because you'd have different constellations all over the sky on a flat Earth too. What?
No, on a flat Earth, you see the same thing when you look up because it's flat.
You just have one constellation in the whole sky, or would there be no constellations? I don't get what
there'd be multiple constellations, but you'd see the same thing. So there's actually different constellations when you go to the South Pole, other than the North Pole. Like, do you not understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so are you saying that what we see the stars doing, that's actually what they're doing, right?
So you know how like you see certain
constellations. Can I get an answer? That's the second time I asked you that question. Can you answer it though, or because I'm trying to go somewhere with that. Like I'm not trying to go.
I know you're a little stupid
with your constellations.
Are
you saying that the things we see the stars doing in the sky, are you saying they're actually doing that?
Yes.
Okay, now I have a follow-up, please. Are you familiar with the divergence and convergence of the stars at the celestial equator?
Okay.
That's a yes or no. I don't know. Okay, are you or aren't you? I don't
answer yes or no questions.
Are you familiar with it or aren't you?
This is not an interrogation. I said okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Can I just do a real quick? We don't even need to go to the constellations being the same. Like on a flat Earth, the sky should be rotating the same direction for everybody. Once you pass the equator, the rotation of the sky flips if you're looking at the same constellation over the equator. This cannot happen on a flat Earth with a dome.
Okay, so I know. So you guys are saying everything we see the stars doing, they're actually doing that. Now, are you familiar with the convergence and divergence of the stars at the celestial equator?
But Jeremy, do you acknowledge the point?
Yeah, I hear your point. I have a follow-up to that point. Yes, nobody will address it for some reason. I probably know why, but
well, from what I mean, can I answer it, Jeremy? From what I've understood from the mainstream model, the stars that we witness, the light coming from the star to our eye is light that has been traveling for millions of years, right? So what we're actually seeing isn't what is actually happening. It's only the aftermath of what's taken place already. This is the mainstream
By
models.
that logic, that's with
I'm not
everything, though.
talking
That's
about
with
the
the
light.
train in the distance.
Dude, that's the worst copium I've heard like all day. Are you like hotboxing your room with copium right now?
A little bit.
That's
Yeah,
not necessary.
I
That's
can
not
tell. I
necessary.
sell
But I'm not
copium
talking about
50% off.
refraction. I'm not talking about refraction. I'm not talking about how long it takes the light to get here. I'm talking about, are you familiar with the convergence and divergence of the stars at the celestial equator?
Are you asking me or Raven?
Anyone who thinks we're looking up at the sky and it's actually doing what we see it
have you
doing.
heard of like quantum, like like materials and like the way things act in the universe? So, there may not always be like what you see out there. Like it's the Twilight Zone, guys.
I'm not taking it to refraction.
if
I'm
I'm
not taking it to quantum. I'm not taking it to how long it takes the light to get to us. Can you please just let me do it and not anyone else try to guess where I'm going with it?
Well,
Because
then go ahead and fucking explain yourself.
I
if you're
can try
not
to give a good
familiar with the
faith answer.
divergence and convergence at the
If I'm
celestial
not
equator, it's
familiar
not
with it,
going to make
maybe
sense.
I am.
Yeah,
Maybe
but I
fuck you.
think
Well,
I'm not familiar either.
hold on,
But like I
hold
would
on.
guess, are you talking about the
7
different densities?
inches, 7 inches, and Raven. You guys just keep over talking, dude. Just hang out a second. Everyone's gonna get heard. There's no need to rush. Let's let Jeremy finish his question, and then you guys can tackle it. It's no big deal.
All right.
Wait,
Let's do that.
why is it only 7 inches? Is that how big your dick is? Is that it?
Bro, don't start. I'm top
Come on, man.
1-2% of the world. Let's move on. But yeah, let's get to the question.
Wait a minute. Is 7 inches somehow now like what the hell? When and since when in Tar Nations is 7 inches like not enough? Like,
Guys, please,
Well,
man.
dude,
Come on.
mine's a little
Guys,
bigger.
come on, dude. Come on, guys. Let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's.
Jeremy,
Okay,
please.
I was just. The question was the convergence and the divergence. I'm not familiar with this concept, but I'm assuming it's like part of the what you guys look up when you do this type of research for this type of thing, and it has to do with the rays coming through at a more atmosphere from different angles, and that's where you get more refraction. Is that what
No,
you're talking about?
no, this has nothing to do with refraction. Nope. It's not refraction. It's not how long the lights take. So if you're not familiar with it, if you look up at the equator, the celestial equator, and you don't move your camera, you'll see the star trails converge and diverge at the celestial equator. Now, if you're saying we're looking up at the sky and all the stars that's actually doing what we see them doing, you're going to have to walk away saying they're actually converging and diverging. Because we see that. That's an observation. We see that as demonstrable.
English is my second language. I know what converge and diverge means in some context, but I'm not sure. Can you give me like a visual?
No,
of
he's
what
he's trying to act smart, and he heard this on YouTube somewhere, and like he's trying to say what you're looking at is not actually like what you're looking at, and it's just like a big copium mechanism. So I actually
I don't know, Raven.
I got him with the North Pole South Pole thing, and now he's saying now the sky isn't real.
Right. I mean, I get there's a lot
of
I didn't say the sky's not
water
real.
isn't wet, you guys.
I feel if you were confident in your position, I feel if you were confident in your position, Raven, you wouldn't have to do these tactics.
Hey, well, that's what he's doing, man. I'm just telling you the truth.
I mean, I'm just
He's not doing
curious as to
anything.
what that looks
He's
like.
just asking a question. And you guys are
No,
over
not
talking.
this guy, not the guy asking
running
the
away.
question. Jeremy, I just want to know
and diverging.
what do you mean?
Converging and diverging. Go look at some star trail photos. Try to get one you'll find some just looking at the north, just looking at the south. You'll be able to find some though that are looking up at the equator, or they're looking towards the equator, and you can see both rotations.
Okay, but we're not even talking about that. I said the exact same time I have a camera pointed directly up, and we're not talking about converging or diverging. We're talking about two separate poles that actually have different constellations. And you're talking about something completely different, and you're trying to confuse this guy that has second language English. Okay, so you are a dunce, dude. You're a chotch. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we can't.
He's just ducking out. He doesn't have good answers, so this is his way to get out of.
All right. Do you want to see video evidence?
I mean, I'm not carrying on with this guy. We can't. This guy's not live stream material.
Bye. Bye. Have a nice day. Next.
I feel like it could be productive. I feel like we need some balance, and everybody has their extremes, and I
Yeah,
find
this
it
isn't
nice.
an echo chamber.
Yeah, but
is
he's
it?
just been
It's just an
interrupting
echo
and
chamber.
calling names nonstop, though. Like that's not.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can't
sure.
do that.
Wait a
But
minute,
it's
wait a
like,
minute.
He's
Oh,
been
the guy.
warned several times. I mean, I don't know.
All right, so now you're bringing up name calling. Okay, dude. Like,
So the guy who got cooked and ran away then came back. I just realized he came back. Like, wait, you didn't address what was being spoken about earlier.
what?
This frog jumped out of the pot and then jumped right back into it. We should
Dude,
rewind the tape.
are you drinking tonight? Like, I never ran
No,
anywhere.
but you sound drunk, fucking Mr. 2 Inches. What you want?
2 inches. So see, hey, that's Napalm right there.
No, we're gonna change your server name. We're gonna change your server name to Millimeter Peter.
All right, 0.5 Peter, 0.5. Actually, how about inversion Peter?
I could shut you all up and show you a picture, but I won't.
Show my photo? You guys want to see my photo?
I could shut you all up and show you a picture,
Here's the
but
thing.
I'll show my photo in the side chat if you want. Here you go. So this is me. Oh wait, I can't. I don't have permissions. Who wants it? You want my photo?
No, we don't. Can we get back to the actual topic though? Like you're terrible to live stream with, dude. Stop the name calling. Stop the interrupting. Stop the non sequitur off topic bullshit. Please, guys, come on.
All right, but what I'm trying to tell them
Star
is
Trails.
that
back to the Star Trails.
Okay,
back
the North
Star Trails.
The North Pole.
No, dude. We heard your claim. I know North Pole, South Pole. You're saying the stars in the sky are doing what we see them doing. I'm challenging that claim of them actually doing what we see them doing. And now we're on it with the star trails at the celestial equator.
But he said at the equator.
Yes.
So
the in-between point of your claim, the middle point of your claim. Yes. The middle. Between the North Pole and the South Pole, the middle.
I'm not talking about the equator.
Okay, but I am now challenging the claim that the stars are doing the stars are actually doing what we see them doing. That is a claim. I'm challenging it. I'm going to show you they can't be in your model.
You know
want to hear it or not? I feel like you don't want to hear it, and you
entire-
just want to like make a ruckus and just keep going on
All right,
about
listen,
other
dude,
stuff.
listen,
hold
it sounds like
on.
your
Are you
entire
insinuating
ideology
that
is to actually say it to blur the lines with anything? So nothing's real. So the stars aren't real. Like 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Nobody
are you
said that.
insinuating that everything could be like way drastically different than
nothing's real, right?
To us? So everything could be just completely out there. Is that how far we can take that?
That is what he's doing. He's like, oh, you made a good point. Well, nothing's real.
Can I answer, or are you going to answer for me? Just stop, dude. I'm about to time you out. You're terrible to live stream with. Just stop. Control yourself.
Abuse? What the fuck?
Just control yourself, dude. Otherwise, you can just leave. Now, here's the thing with the star trails. If you're claiming that the stars are actually doing what we see them doing, you're going to have to say they're actually diverging and converging, because that's what we see them doing at the celestial equator.
Right, but okay, so because I said an original claim about the rotation of the sky, right? Pretty much as viewed, and I just want to know, was the converging and diverging argument a counter argument to that? Because basically all I said was, if the Earth was flat, we couldn't see stars rotating in opposite directions in the north and the south at the same time.
I'm giving you the counter argument to it. I'm giving you the counter argument to it with the star trails, with this divergence and convergence. This is my counter argument to that argument. I understand your argument. I heard it. I heard your point, and now this is the counter. Damn, man, this is tough, guys.
By making me realize I can't trust anything in the sky.
Hey, Jeremy.
Tough. I just want to show you that they're not doing. I just want to show you that they're not doing. Can you, Raven, please, dude? I'm just trying to show you that if you make that claim, you're going to have to instantly renege on that, because they can't, in your model, they can't be doing that.
So you have a ridiculous argument. So your argument is nothing's real.
Nope, that's not my argument. My argument is they can't actually be doing what we see them doing in your model, because otherwise it's physically impossible, because they'd have to actually be converging and diverging. That's my argument. Not all the bullshit. Not all the bullshit straw man shit you just said. The thing I actually said.
So what you're doing right now is coping for the fact that you just lost the debate. And that Czerny-Spinski's triangle, whatever it's called, the fractal pattern you have there.
May I just interrupt briefly? So, Jeremy, you asked him about the divergence and convergence of stars. I missed the part of his reply. Did you want to reply, Raven? Can you tell me what you told Jeremy?
So I said that the North Pole, you see completely different constellations than the South Pole at the same time. If you have a camera, you'll see completely different ones. And it's because it is actually a sphere Earth. And you can't see the same stars on the other side of the Earth. And if it was a flat Earth, you would see the same constellations. And what he's saying is that the equator, that they diverge. And for some reason, that you can't trust your lying eyes, is what he's saying.
No,
okay.
I'm saying that's not what, dude. Don't write that down, Data. If you're gonna put that in your next book or some shit, don't write that part down because that's not what I said at all.
Okay, I just had to look up like the actual definitions of diverge and converge. So you're saying they do converge and diverge, right?
I'm telling you, we see that happen. You guys are saying the things we see the stars doing, that's actually happening, right? That's
Yes.
what the claim was. That's actually okay. Now, when we take that claim to the equator, we see them converge and diverge. So now, following the claim you just made, that must actually be happening. They're actually converging and diverging.
I mean,
that's impossible
if I
for the
understand
globe.
the definition. No, I don't.
This is what he's not following. He's invoking the rotation body, inferring a sphere, but at the same time, his model is an oblate spheroid, and it's not spherical. It's more of a pear shape.
No, it don't have nothing to do with that.
No,
it don't have nothing to do with that.
Oblate spheroid, that's such a tiny bulge.
That's the logic.
It's 14 miles.
You are right about that. It's not a perfect sphere.
Yeah, so there you go. So what I'm trying to tell you,
this doesn't have anything to do with that, though, Data. This doesn't have anything to do with it.
I understand. I know the argument, Jeremy. I know the argument, brother. So what I'm trying to say to the guy is that he's invoking a sphere based on rotations of the body, but he doesn't have the knowledge of optics, obviously, vision, or the convergence of divergence due to cameras, for number one, and the illusion due to refraction and limited vision. So do you think that we can see like forever and ever, or is there a limitation to our vision?
Hold on, can I just get some closure on this before we carry on to the next thing?
Before you get into word games, I know that you don't have limited vision. You actually only can see 1% of anything that's around you, right? So we can get more and more into this like nonsensical talk that you're going to try to hide like a thinly veiled like lie to the public. But like as we can clearly see with our 1% that we can see is that you're wrong because the constellations are different on both sides. And it's not because of diversions or whatever excuse you want to make. That's just the truth.
It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. I'm just telling you this. If you think we're on a globe in the whole heliocentric model, it's physically impossible for the stars to be doing it.
So it's just because the equator. That's why the South Pole like shows different constellations.
Can I just make a quick interjection here? I feel like I'm going crazy. If I understand the divergence and convergence correctly,
no, he's an idiot. No, I know you feel like you're going crazy. He's lying to you. So
no, but you would see that.
I'm not lying. Like that we actually see that.
No.
Yes,
I'm
that
not
is
saying
what
that
would
doesn't
happen on a
exist.
globe.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying this guy's making like a poor excuse for why what I told you.
I'm not making an excuse for anything. I'm debunking your claim that the stars are actually doing what we see them doing. That's a debunk. It's a direct debunk of the claim you just made about the stars doing what they're doing.
So yeah, go F yourself.
That's not a rebuttal. That's not a response or a rebuttal.
I said F yourself instead of the full thing. See, I'm.
He's just concluded that the 1%.
Out of the convo. I don't know if you guys want to carry on with him. Go to another server or something. He's out. Like I don't know.
But just one more time. Like on a globe, we would expect if you are on the equator to see the stars in the sky diverge and converge.
Correct.
Yes. And so we do see that. It's also a thing that you say, unless I'm like way too high. That would.
The problem is that you're relying on man. You're relying on man to interpret that observation in totality. And the issue is that you live in an environment that to your scale doesn't represent it. And what you do is you rely on observations outside of your senses and validation to assume that it's a sphere because only the logical deduction that you can find it has to be a sphere because there's a diverging stars. When in reality, you can't leave that reference frame to determine it. You can only apply. You can only apply an explanation based on that observation. But here's the problem: that observation has to lead with a presupposition because you have to have an explanation for it. So you assume the cause of it, and therefore reify that cause by saying, "Well, it doesn't work anywhere else. It must therefore be this." That's the fallacy.
Sure. But the problem is that is the one that seems to fit what we actually see, versus all other models wouldn't predict such a thing.
It isn't entirely true.
Actually, that would still be an assumption.
I can give you
still be an assumption, by the way.
Let me just get some closure on this convergence and divergence thing before you guys carry on with all this other stuff, please. Can I or what?
So, yeah. Go on. Can I say one thing about it as well after, or?
Yeah, I just want you to understand it. You made the claim. I gave you the rebuttal, and what's the response to that?
Well, yeah. So you do agree that it works in the model, and you're saying you can't leave that reference frame because everything could be projected on some different level or whatever.
What? No, it's not.
Basically, this
I didn't say any of that.
Is where you're. That extends to that. To
I didn't say anything you just said. I said no.
Okay.
I say nothing about
That's
reference
right. If
frames.
I could just have 20 seconds.
It doesn't work in your model. Hold on, Jen.
Well, okay, because I just kept.
Were you even listening to what I said? I mean, I don't know. That other guy was rumpusing
okay, so
me
I
a
was
lot,
right.
but...
Yeah, I might have gotten it mixed up because I kept asking. You're saying that doesn't work in the globe model, and then somebody kept saying, "Yeah, I'm saying that does work in the globe model." That wasn't you.
No, that was Dad.
Oh well,
you can't have the stars. You can't have the stars convergent.
Okay, I can explain. Imagine a ball, right? And then you
hold on. Let me just say the whole thing again, please, because I feel like you didn't even hear anything I said because you couldn't even tell me what I said.
No, yeah, I think I could.
I'll just say the whole thing again. It takes 2 seconds. You claim that everything we see in the sky, everything we see with the stars is actually happening. I gave you an observation we see with the convergence and divergence that can't be happening in the globe model. Do you have a rebuttal to that?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
That is precisely what you would expect on a globe model to see this divergence and convergence. If you have a sphere and you have a tilt, doesn't matter if it's tilted or not, and you imagine it's spinning, so that ball is going to have a certain spin direction, and it's going to have axes, if you imagine it pointing from pole to pole. If you stand on the equator, you're standing on the point that is perfectly matching up with the angle the same as the rotational angle, you're going to see stars coming up and down, looking in that direction. That is divergence.
Okay, so we see them converge and diverge. So you're saying they actually are converging and diverging?
Yes.
They can't. That's physically impossible on the globe model. They have to stay the same distance apart. They can't converge and diverge. It's physically impossible for this to happen in the heliocentric model.
No, I'm saying from our optical perspective. I'm not saying they themselves are going in this physical manner.
Okay, so it's not actually happening. So you're saying, so you're going back on your first claim and you're saying that's not actually happening.
I didn't know you were being that literal. Like when we see a thing, no, I'm saying that perfectly matches an explanation for as to why the Earth might be a sphere and be spinning, because we see the stars doing that. And when you ask me, so you're saying we can see what they're actually doing? I didn't think that you actually meant them spinning around or different perspectives like that. Obviously.
Okay,
not.
so you agree they can't actually be converging and diverging in the heliocentric model, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay, so
but that's not what we mean when we say that. We mean from our optical perspective.
Okay, so we're looking up at the stars now. We're seeing them do things that they're not actually doing, and you're going to go look at a different part of the sky and tell me they are actually doing this thing over here, though.
I don't know why you're getting stuck on the part of the phrase and the definition of doing what they're doing. What we mean when we say that is that we can observe how our system works by how we see it. We're not. Nobody says that those stars are converging and diverging in that sense ever. We mean
we know. We know you guys
have
to. We know you guys have to say we're looking up. We're seeing this thing at the equator happen, but it's not actually doing that. But then you want to look somewhere else in the sky. But then you want to look somewhere else in the sky and say, oh, it is actually doing this over here, though.
Do you believe? Okay, so let me
That's
ask
what's happening, though, right?
slightly
Just
on
to be
top.
clear for everyone
Sure,
listening, though, that is
sure.
what's happening. Okay, just to be
True.
clear.
True. I agree.
May I quickly add to that? I'm just going to quickly add the whole contention of the argument is devising a model from something that actually isn't occurring, and that's usually the position of a flat earther, is that the model is perceived through optics and vision, through an illusion of something that is supposedly happening but isn't. And because you can't quantify it, you're limited on how you quantify it. It has to be either or. The problem is when you choose either or. Hold on, when you choose either or, you adopted a model that's still full of flaws. In other words, in my opinion, through all of this stuff, you cannot map out the entire creation. It's too massive, it's too big, and there's a lot of anomalies, whether it's optics, whether it's refraction, environmental conditions, whatever. Can you model a version of what you believe? Sure. You can model a planar surface with opposing rotations, but it's very difficult to perceive in reality, isn't it? Because how you perceive it to be on paper versus reality, that's a big goal there. And I can give you examples that prove the heliocentric model, the globe model suffers the same problem. Is that the inaccuracy based on the idea it's a sphere is evident in itself, right? Because it's not accurate.
Okay, no. You said.
Okay, hang on a second. I've been waiting as well. Hold on.
Hold on. He
was
was responding to me. I just need to respond to that real quick because that's very incorrect.
You're gonna have to wait, mate.
Just real quick, because I think he's responding.
I don't want to wait any longer. I just want to build up on what Flat Update was saying. It's this. Basically, whilst I agree with what he said, to a certain point, we can deduce whether or not the Earth is curving or not. In its shape, that we can for sure. But the rest of the stuff that he mentioned, that is all an assumption. The stars and everything else, that would be an assumption from the heliocentric model's perspective. I'll stop there for now anyway. Thanks.
Yeah, you were saying that pretty much I was also ascribing to the idea that we're saying that we can't really tell the difference because it's all from perspective, and that's what I mean by looking at it from our optical perspective in relation to how they actually may be moving, and that is the flat earther argument, articulating that we can't tell the difference from perspective to observation.
Well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a prime example by asking you one question. Hold on. Is the way you perceive the horizon and the sunrise or a sunset in your heliocentric model, does the sun appear to be in its position, or is it somewhere else in your model?
It's slightly off due to refraction and difference.
Wonderful. So therefore, it's not an actual location. It's an illusion, right? Because if it was an actual,
we can calculate the track and know where it is.
You use time to calculate the track, but then you have assumptions of why it's in its position. You acknowledge through your own model that's an assumption of what the horizon is. And if you didn't know that, that's how the model was built, is based on a presupposition of what the horizon is. My question to you is it an illusion or is it actually happening? What I mean by that is when the sun sets, does it touch the ground? Or is it an illusion it appears to touch the ground?
Well, I mean, to some, it's an illusion that it touches the ground.
Even in your own model, it's an illusion, meaning not actually happening. So when you apply that principle, when you look at the stars and you see these rotations, the conundrum is yes, you have opposite celestial rotations that create shadows. Your main focus should be on shadows and not the rotations. The shadows don't lie for the simple reasons it's a testable thing that you can see with your own senses. And it's coming from something that's outside of your senses. So a Miller sphere is a great example of how the globe model was made because it offers an explanation for opposing shadow rotations. This is what you have to understand. But the globe model itself, what we presented, is false in my opinion because of different star angles, how the rate of the sun changes based on latitude. For instance, if we go up and down one longitude on Earth and we use SunCalc, or I think it's SunCalc now, suncalc.org, you can go and each latitude you move, you'll see that the position of the sun changes anywhere from 3 degrees to 17 degrees an hour. So there's none of this consistent 15 degrees. So you have to understand that what we perceive to be happening up above is an illusion, essentially, right? You already agreed the sun doesn't touch the ground. We've got this convergence of stars. We've got these divergence of stars based on perspective.
Calculations match perfectly.
They do not. If you think that if you take your globe model and you apply, you can go to real Earth data, like stellarium, and you'll see that the angles don't line up. You'll have they just won't line up, meaning that the heliocentric model that we presented is inaccurate. If you think that it's accurate 100%, you're wrong. Just like the flat Earth is inaccurate, both models represent the conundrum. which is the Earth presents itself as a stationary planar Earth, but we have opposing rotation bodies above. It's literally a paradox. Okay, so we're
flat Earth data. Hang on, though. Flat Earth data. We're not measuring curvature, so therefore the Earth is not curving at the rate it should be. Yeah, so we can say for sure that it's not an oblate spheroid. Okay, that we can. When you look at the stars now, though, there's going to be a lot of inaccuracies because you've got Atmos playing its part, and as you say, it is an illusion for some parts, and I would agree there, an illusion. But there's no illusion on the surface of the Earth. It is not curving, and in construction, we don't take curvature into consideration. So we can definitely know that the Earth isn't an oblate spheroid. That we do know. So please,
the paradox,
you're offering something I don't agree with, and I'll stop there.
The paradoxical state is exactly where they want everybody, because they want to have your mind split in two, have something represent reality, be true, but then you have to think of an explanation outside of your reality for it to be true.
That sounds like you just don't want to put into effort to learn physics or how it works.
No, listen, that has nothing to do with that. I love science. I love geometry. I love the story of it all. The reality is that people who believe things think that man has the answer to all things, and I disagree. Man does not have the answer.
No,
this is why we're here.
Science is very open to saying we don't.
It's not. It's not. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a claim to test. Okay, just one question I want you to do. Just hear me out. I want you to ask any glober in the near future. Pretend you're a flat earther for 1 minute, and ask them, how do I prove the Earth is traveling through How do I prove the Earth is traveling through space at 500,000 miles an hour? What tests can I do? If you just stick with that one question, hold on. You stick with that one question and just ask a glober, and then come back to this channel. I want you to tell me what the replies were. And then you tell me that science is an open book. Science is willing to be questioned.
Yeah, well,
you will find quickly science will shut you down, will insult you, and call you names. That's what you will really find.
Yeah. So I'm sure that if I go around asking everyday people, how do you explain this thing that took physicists like millennia to figure out?
That's not what I said. 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 I said go ask a glober. So what that is inferring is that you're in this debate. You know what a glober means. So go to Jim Panda's channel and change your name, whatever. Just test the claim for me. Just go in there and ask one question. How do I prove that the Earth is doing what you claim to do? Just one question. And because you already made an assertion that science is an open book, we're open for discussion and debate. I can prove to you they are not interested in open discussion and debate with that one question.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so let's say the Earth is flat. Okay, do you agree?
Flat Earth is a misnomer. Flat Earth is a misnomer. It is not flat.
Can I just say something? Can I just?
Flat Earth is a misnomer. It has undulations. It has hills and valleys. It's not flat.
That's not what I mean. You know exactly
what it is. What it is. Well, get the terminology straight. It's a topographical planar stationary surface. That's what it is in objective reality. Flat Earth is a misnomer. Flat Earth is a misnomer. Flat Earth is literally a casting spell word to invoke hatred. I don't know why it works. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the spell works. But that's truly, when you use the word flat Earth, it's a misnomer because the Earth isn't fucking a pancake. It's hills, valleys, mountains.
Yeah, but just to say real quick, depends on how you use the word flat. Because one of the definitions of flat is horizontally level. Another definition has to do with line, like a position of horizontal, like an orientation of horizontal. So, I mean, the term flat Earth has some applicability. It's not completely a misnomer. Okay. It just depends on which connotation of the word is being used.
Well,
one of the definitions here. One of the definitions is having a continuous horizontal surface, for example. So it just depends on which usage you use it.
So, yeah, but that's the thing. The word itself, flat, is true in its essence. It's the attachment of Earth following it is the contention that brings up dysfunction.
Yeah, but having no variation of surface feature is only one definition of flat. Just like having no carbonation in your beer would be flat, like a flat beer or a flat soda. You know, it's all different usages of flat. That's all I'm saying. So there's one usage that would have to do with having no differences, like no peaks or depressions, you know, in terms of that. And of course there is elevation, but many of the other definitions like horizontally level, you know, the orientation of horizontal, etc., would correlate with a horizontal planar topographical plane type of as well. That's all I'm saying. There's some overlap, but I hear what you're saying as well. But it's kind of a side thing. Did that guy want to respond, or whoever you were talking to? Oh, looks like he left. All right. Sorry.
I'm actually having fun coming back here. It's pretty fun.
The biggest problem comes in when what they do is they take flat Earth and then they try to still apply their entire cosmological model
in conjunction with it and turn it into this whole pizza disc in space thing. It's like, no, that's where you're fundamentally wrong. You see, the whole thing, the whole model is based upon Hollywood lies. Every bit of it. You need Hollywood for it.
I disagree. There's nothing inherently wrong with a sphere, bro. If you think that Hollywood's behind it, then you've been brainwashed. It's just about division. That's really what it's about. It's not whether the shape of the Earth is sphere or flat. It's about division.
Now, he said that metaphorically, and Hollywood has been pushing the heliocentric model anyway. So he's correct in the statement that it's all Hollywood because NASA and Hollywood are affiliated to some point and they've been working together. So, Mr. Flat Earth Data, you're trying to be too purist here, I think. If you can just calm down and less of the semantics, we can get on, okay? Because you're slowly creating a little bit of division here, I do feel, with your position, okay? When we say flat Earth, you mean the Earth is not curving at 8 inches per mile square. That's all we're saying. Finish. We know it's got mountains and valleys. Everybody knows that, okay?
I was speaking to a glober, not to the flat earther. I was speaking to the glober, people who are questioning the model. Okay. That's what I'm speaking to. So people who come in, they should be looking not to join sides, because that's the fallacy here. You don't want to join sides, you want to join truth. You want truth.
That's exactly our position. That's exactly my position, is that we show you the anomalies whilst we're looking for the globe. And what we're finding is extended horizontality. What are we supposed to deduce from that? That's up to you. We say it's a flat Earth and welcome. Okay, it's as simple as that. There's no curvature. Okay, we haven't experienced living on a globe. Our senses have not registered that at all. When you begin to look back in your past, you will realize it for yourself, that you've been duped from the education you received from your elementary school days. And it's been reinforced all through your days. And as my colleague said there, Hollywood has played its part. It certainly has. Thank you.
Well, you have to ask yourself, somebody who believes in the sphere, who's taught the sphere, are they inherently evil because they're passing what they believe to be true on? And that's the fundamental question, is the intention behind it. So people grew up in a model, believe a model, they're not necessarily inherently wrong or lying. They've just grown up with a representation of reality based on a model. That's not inherently evil.
No, and I never implied that, and my sentiments are exactly like yours, because I followed I believed the heliocentric model for 48 years. So clearly I understand that I made an error, and I have to allow those who are making the error their room to explain. That's why it's kid gloves generally, trying to get them to look at their lives and look at whether or not they've confirmed whether or not they're living on a globe, and that's due to themselves. They've got to look into themselves and go out and check, and that's when they're going to realize. Yeah. So I don't really slam them down or call them evil. I don't go down that road. I just want them to realize that there's a deception going on. I've discovered it. Here it is for you. And generally, in Japan where I am, they're very receptive. But in the West, for example, you do get a lot of triggered people and some insults and obnoxious behaviour. Okay, it does get heated at times. But I'm generally kid gloves, walking on eggshells, if you will, because I want them to understand. I don't want to lose them. I need them so we have more people becoming aware. Obviously.
I'm a glober. I have an answer to your question earlier about how did we come up with the speed of the Earth going around the sun? We'd only need to measure.
That wasn't my question. That wasn't my question. My question was, how do we do a test to determine the Earth is traveling through space at 500 miles an hour?
Yeah, we only need to test to find out the distance to the sun. Then from that, once you get the diameter of that orbit, you can work out the speed.
We're not talking about an orbit. Again, you didn't listen. It has nothing to do with an orbit. How do we test that the Earth is traveling through space at 500,000 miles an hour?
By finding out the distance it's traveling, and then how frequently, once a year.
Go ahead, run me through the exercise.
Is extrapolating it from the cyclical motion in the sky, essentially.
How do you determine a straight path through space through a circular orbit?
What do you mean straight path? Oh, do you mean like the Earth?
If you're traveling through space, like it's claimed, you're not traveling in orbit. You're traveling through space, because they don't say it's an orbit. They say it's through. So you're saying that they're traveling. Curving? No, that would be the orbit.
It's not an orbit.
I already know the calculation for the 67,000 miles for the orbit. I'm not talking about the orbit. I'm talking about the Earth traveling through space at 500,000 miles an hour, like the model predicts.
How is that different to the orbit around the sun?
Because there's no test to prove it. There's nothing to test. All you have is shifting in light. That is it. There's no test to prove it. All you're doing is basing it off the way the light shifts.
Seasons would show that we're in a cycle with the angle of the Earth if it keeps coming back.
Okay, so the cycle. Hold on. So you just said seasons. Seasons give me the answer of why Earth is traveling 500,000 miles through space.
Yes, we have seasons, and then you need to know the distance to the sun. Then you can work out the speed.
Again, we're not talking about an orbit around the sun. Forget that. We're talking about the Earth traveling through space. So when I say that, that means all of the celestial bodies are traveling through space at a certain speed. This is what's. I'm sure you've seen the video of the sun swirling through space and all the orbits and planets following the sun. You've seen this video, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Exactly. So again, just being a true seeker and looking for an honest debate and looking for a practical way to test without relying on any institution. How do I test it?
But that 500,000 figure you talk about, isn't that the orbit around the sun, not the one with the sun and everything else?
No, it has nothing to do with an orbit around the sun. Again, you seem to have a difficulty here.
Data, real quick. It's more like 1,000,000 and some change, and it's the speed of the galaxy through the soul. It's like the galaxy's moving at like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we're in the galaxy, so we'd have to be moving along with that.
Like the Earth revolves around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. Is that the figure you're talking about, or a different
Nope,
figure?
he's talking about the galaxy
everything?
moving through the. I just said it. Did you hear what I said? He's talking about the galaxy moving through the universe. It's like 1,000,000 miles an hour.
So this is what it says. It says
no,
the
it's not
motion.
67,000. It's like 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Okay.
It's not, Jeremy. It's 514,000 miles an hour because it's the sun that's motion around the Milky Way. That's what they claim. So if the sun is traveling 514,000 miles through the Milky Way, how do we prove that Earth is doing the same thing? There is no test for it. There is no way to do it. It's just based on light. That's it.
Well, if the sun was doing it.
Okay, so you're not even factoring in.
With the sun.
Okay, so you're not even factoring in the. Okay, so you're not even factoring in the universe moving through the galaxy moving through the universe speed because it's like doubles it.
I'm just in reference to this. See, in their model, the Earth is following the sun. The sun is in motion around the Milky Way at 514,000 miles per hour. Okay, that means that the Earth has to be traveling 514,000 miles an hour because it has to, it's keeping up with the sun, right, or attracted to the sun.
Yeah, fair enough.
How do we test for that? So now I was just looking for a simple test, not to rely on some institution, not to be called a name, not to be insulted, not to be put down. Why was I put down and insulted for asking that question? And then for you, it took you about 10 minutes to even understand the question. Now, do you understand the question?
Yeah, it's because you said that 67,000 figure that threw me because that's the orbit one.
So I didn't ever mention 67. I didn't ever mention 67,000 miles ever, not once. I mentioned 500,000 miles an hour. It's just a quick number, but it's actually 514,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, that is a good question. I have no idea how they measure that.
Right. And the sun supposedly orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles per hour. 66,000 miles per hour, which is approximately 90 times the speed of sound. How could you measure all that? Okay, 90 times the speed of sound on a yearly orbit.
And then they say the entire solar system is going around the Great Attractor at 1.3 million miles per hour. So you have to add the 1.3 million as well.
That's right. And then the whole thing is covering 19.2 billion miles in a year, every year. Woo-hoo.
Even my car doesn't go that fast.
But in theory, if you take it all into consideration, you are moving that fast.
Yeah, you got to add the 1.3 million to your car speed.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, you can see that we flat earthers have some valid questions about the heliocentric model and all those motions that we're not noticing. Okay. Crunched out says it can. That's the standard that I would operate under regarding satellites, because it's such a fantastic thing. Knowing the technology, understanding the environment of space, satellites break natural law. So I want to see how this fantastic instrument can be in space, floating, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, where did we get the idea that human beings, astronauts, can float? We got that from our cartoons and NASA and movies. They don't float. You go up, you come back down. So you get to 62 miles. What they're saying to you is that you get to 62 miles from the Earth's surface. That's the Kármán line, where space supposedly begins, and then you begin to float now.
No, that's not true. You're continually falling, but around the curvature of the Earth. That's the orbit.
Not according to the way it's been pictured to us. When they go out and do this spacewalk, for example, they're floating supposedly.
Yeah, because there's no forces acting on them like acceleration, so it feels like you're floating.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's another belief system right there. That's a belief right there. That's not proven fact. That you can go 250 miles. You can go 250 miles from the Earth's surface, where the ISS is highly radiated. You'd be dead instantly anyway if you could go there, but you're going to be floating around.
I'd love to follow up on what you said about how they're they're falling and there's no forces acting upon them. Maybe at some point here, if I could get a chance. You done with
I
your
muddled
whole
my
thing?
words. I just mean like no sort of acceleration. So if you were there, it would feel like you're floating, even though in reality you're falling, but the Earth is curving at the same rate you're falling once you're up to speed.
I know what it all means. Yeah, there's no force there, right?
Yeah, kind of. You're like just
What you mean,
going around.
kind of? Is there a force there or not?
Well, yeah, you're falling to gravity, but you're sort of going in a like the Earth
So
is like
yes,
falling
yes,
away
force.
at the same
No,
rate.
no, not a force.
I haven't explained it well. Well, yeah, gravity, but because there's no friction, you can maintain that speed indefinitely and stay in orbit.
I don't know.
Never
I don't have a lot of
There
time
is
to fool around.
friction,
Is there a force there or not? Yes or no?
As in, like one acting on them or one they would feel. That's like relative.
That's fucking hilarious.
Like if you go on a vomit comet, it starts to
moving.
dive. It wouldn't feel like there's a force acting on you as you're floating for that brief minute in a plane.
Yeah, you experience a little bit of weightlessness, but let's just take the ISS traveling at Mach 23, 17,500 miles an hour. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that kind of velocity doesn't like to lend itself to curved trajectory, okay? That's a straight linear line force, but they want us to believe that it's going around the curve. Now, the motion itself would totally rip off those solar panels, because the way the ISS has been configured,
no
Mach 20, hang on a minute, please, Mach 23 would be generating a lot of centrifugal force there, right? At Mach 23, 17,500 miles an hour, which is approximately 5 miles a second, okay? The forces generated, you're not letting me finish. You're just not letting me finish, are you? I don't interrupt you when you speak. Thank you. The forces, what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at this ISS and those solar panels, and then you visualize it's in the thermosphere, so it's going to gather heat and keep gathering heat, plus the centrifugal forces of a Mach 23 through a curved trajectory. It's an impossibility. Okay, it's an impossibility. I'll stay on that point for now. Go ahead.
And it's not in a vacuum either. I mean, admittedly, so there is some air friction which would slow it down, and also orbiting is officially a form of acceleration. It's permanently,
the orbits
it's
do
in
decay.
equilibrium. It's accelerating in equilibrium, right? With basically being launched away. So that's the idea. An orbit is an acceleration, even though it can move at a theoretical constant speed.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're putting to you who are listening in the live stream, what we're putting to you is that the idea that we can achieve Mach 23 as a given, as easy as achieving 100 miles per hour in a motor car, is a joke. That's an impossibility, okay? The way my opponent is describing the idea of the ISS being able to do that is laughable, to be quite honest, okay? We cannot do that, right? And when you look at the Henneman Air Force Base and they have the hypersonic sledge, that's doing Mach 8. And when you try to film that, you don't capture it, you can't see it. They slow it down to a quarter of the speed and you still don't see this sledge. They've really got to slow it right down to capture this thing on the move, okay? Mach 23, frightening speeds. We don't have technologies that can move at that fast. And the idea that it's actually falling around, listen to those words again, yeah? Falling whilst falling around the globe. Just an insult beyond belief. But anyway, carry on believing, yeah?
Do you believe the moon is a real physical object? Like whatever
I obviously do not believe that, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I do not know what the moon is. That is the correct answer. I see and observe, hang on a minute, I see and observe the moon phases. It appears to be a solid structure, but appears to be and is a solid structure are two different things. I haven't confirmed anything. So that's why my answer and my position is I do not know what the moon is. I've seen what it does in the month and its phases. That's all I really do know. Thanks.
Do you have a theory on how the moon is staying up there?
You don't know what it is.
So my theory is
something that's staying there somehow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to give you a theory. Yeah, I don't want to give you a theory to believe in. So I don't do beliefs. I don't waste your. You can't use theories at this point. I don't give you theories. Facts only.
But wouldn't you be curious to find out what it is and how it's staying there? It always seems to be about the Earth.
At the age of 63, I know that the moon is going to be there for a very long time. It's never late. It's always on time. God, the creator of the Earth, has endowed these orbs, the sun and the moon, do what they do. Now, it could be magnetic forces, but we cannot prove or validate our theories. So there are theories abound, no confirmation, no validation going on. And this is how industries grow. Industries grow from theories, and then you're now being fleeced with your taxpayers' money to these industries who are lying to you. Now they're going to be going to Mars soon. You see what I mean? So from a theory comes the deception. That's why I don't do that. Be careful of your theories.
How is the moon staying up there?
I have no idea.
I didn't ask you.
No idea.
The other guy.
Okay, thank you.
How's the moon staying up there?
So it's in an orbit as well. Just a
okay.
lot further out.
Gotcha. So it's orbiting around the Earth, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I see the sun up there in a very similar pattern as well as the stars. Are those orbiting around the Earth as well?
No, because the sun's a bigger mass, whereas the moon's smaller than the Earth. It's locked in a.
Cool. How did you measure its mass to make this assumption?
The sun or the moon.
Either or.
Well, I guess the sun with radar, they sort of got the rough distance that it is, and then with solar filter, you see the circumference of the sun, so that roughly work out how much bigger it is compared to the Earth.
Oh, so there was no presumption as to what was going around what until we had radar to measure
Also,
an
bigger
alert
doesn't
mass?
mean also
No,
bigger
radar
doesn't mean more mass.
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
You could have a balloon. You could have a balloon filled with helium or a same size shaped lead ball, solid lead. Which one has more mass?
Yeah, it depend. But we can see the energy coming from sun, we assume it has to be some kind of fuel or something.
You can't see
Okay.
energy.
Hey, we
You can
put
see
whatever.
lights on the. We put lights on the outside of the lead ball, or lights outside the balloon. Either one.
But imagine
you can't tell which one's bigger than or has more mass by looking at it.
Yeah, if you know the distance, then you can see the size of it, but not the mass. Then other theories, you guess the mass.
Yeah, if you see if you have the distance and the size. I'm sorry, go ahead, Napalm. Go.
No, I was just going to say he's making a lot of assumptions here. So based on math, you're claiming that there's some sort of mass involved, and that you know that these objects are going around each other based on their mass, but they're not actually running into each other. So you're making the assumption that there's an attraction between masses that is, having them do these orbits, but the orbits never actually collide with one another. It's just a perpetual motion.
Well, I mean, if they were in the same orbit, they might collide, but we can see the moon goes in front of the sun, so we assume the sun's further out than the moon. And
Okay, cool. So it's further away, but how do you make the correct assumption that one is going around the other?
With looking at the orbits of the other planets, you can see it looks like we're going around the sun.
You're not looking at orbits, you're just looking at motions in the sky.
Yeah, well, you can map it out, and then you can see it all fits a pattern.
Yeah, based on incorrect assumptions.
The steel man of the globe.
So you can do the same. I was just going to say you can do the same mapping with a geocentric Earth, meaning everything is going around it, and there's actually less assumptions that need to be made, and the math is correct. You don't have any inconsistencies like you do if you try to mix that up. So how can you tell the difference between a geocentric?
Yeah, there's massive inconsistency. None of the orbits of the planets line up on a geocentric model, whereas they all make, perfect, almost perfect circles if it's heliocentric.
No, there's no. You don't have to make any type of weird assumptions with the geocentric Earth. What weird assumptions are you having to make?
Yeah, well, if you look at a geocentric model, then all the planets are doing these weird spirally things that don't make any sense, like just going in weird.
What do you mean it doesn't make any sense?
If you look at the model of orbits on a geocentric, I'll find it.
Well, it's because the Earth has more mass, or has less mass than the Sun.
So it has to make sense to you based on what assumptions?
I think what he's saying is that the spirals, even if they're consistent, it would be illogical to prefer them.
Yeah, it's a preference.
Let me
right?
just get in here real quick.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, a steel man of the globe would be you can never tell what's actually moving. That's a steel man of like relativity and shit. You never know what's actually moving. It's silly to even ask. That's coming from PhD level. Like when you drop something, they don't know what's moving. Is it the ground going up? Is it the thing going down? They don't know. So for you to sit here and tell us you know what's moving around what, and we already went through the mass thing. You can't tell which one has more mass. You never weighed it. You never touched it. You don't know. You have no idea which one has more mass.
That's actually a good point, right? Because in their theory, the Earth is actually moving up towards the object, regardless of whether or not those objects are antipodal to one another on the globe. Those objects the Earth is moving up towards it because when an object is in free fall, like you were talking about astronauts floating around earlier, when an object is in free fall, there is no forces acting upon it. So what's this magical force that is mass attracting mass, allegedly, if there is no forces acting upon an object that is in free fall towards the surface of the Earth? It's actually the surface of the Earth that is rising up to meet us.
It's the force is it's falling at the same rate as the Earth is curving away, so it's not moving closer, so it can just keep going.
So that's not correct on a cosmological scale. It's the bending and warping of space-time. There is no actual force acting upon it. It is the object moving in a geodesic straight line towards the center of the Earth. There's no force acting upon it. There's no physicality to space-time. So where's the force that holds all these things in orbit?
About
the space-time stuff, I don't really understand it. I just believe in mass attracting mass.
That's the whole trick.
I'm open to it, but
I was super honest, bro. I'm glad we finally got there.
I mean, it doesn't even make sense to me. All the
space-time stuff. Explain all the cosmological stuff taking place strictly from a Newtonian perspective of mass attracting mass.
Yeah, well, that makes sense with orbits. A nice clean orbit.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, except you got the 3-body problem then, if you're going to go by Newtonian mechanics.
Isn't that just
definitely more than 2 bodies?
Well, when it comes to the orbits, though, you can't measure the orbit, and if it was Newtonian, you'd be able to measure it because there'd be a measurable force there, but you can't do it. You can't measure the orbit.
Well,
no, but
if we have radar, we know how far away Mars is. We can keep measuring it at different distances over the years, can see where it is relative to the Earth and the Sun. Then you can
That's just making an observation. That's making an observation with an assumption. There is no actual empirical measurement of that. And if you want to be accurate,
if you have radar or
it's simply mass attracting mass, then you fall apart at the Earth-Moon scale because, according to your priests of scientism, the sun and the moon aren't actually, or the sun and the moon, or I'm sorry, the Earth and the moon don't have a relationship where the moon is orbiting around the Earth. They're actually orbiting around the gravitational barycenter between the two objects. How do you explain that with Newtonian?
Furthermore, masses don't attract to masses. They attract to the null point between the two said objects. So that's only half the story, invoking mass attracting mass. And furthermore, what's the mechanism by which the attraction takes place? I mean, they've never really answered that. They've never even defined mass, for crying out loud. Well, I mean, what else do you know that attracts and repels? How about magnetism?
Like everything.
Why would you rule that out?
But then you can do the mass. You see plastic and stuff falls to the ground. Even
That's not true.
Magnetic.
I can take plastic, I can take rubber, and I can take metal, and I can both get them to defy gravity by sticking to a wall using electrostatics. You got to understand
because that force is overcoming gravity, whereas without that, they'll fall down.
Yeah, but everything is comprised of energies, right, that all have magnetic moments, and those magnetic moments are coalesced into a large incoherent mass, and that incoherent mass still retains this like incoherent magnetism that has a slight attraction.
The thing that a lot of people don't realize, that I constantly am repeating, is that everything in the entire universe is magnetoreactive, be it ferromagnetic, diamagnetic, or paramagnetic. You're never going to find something that is not magnetoreactive other than neutrinos, which, in my opinion, are highly suspicious.
Arguably not real.
Here's the thing, dude. They made an absolute mess. Go ahead, Napalm.
No, you're good. There's just a delay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in a bad spot. They made an absolute mess, shit show, if you will, out of gravity. They'll tell you it's a fundamental force, but then they'll say it's not a force. But then you have a contradiction with F equals ma and gravity with mass accelerating, and there's not being a force there in one, but a force in the other one, which is obviously physically impossible. They just made an absolute mess. Like it's called you know, pseudophysics or something, pseudoscience, pseudophysics, something.
Pseudo-Riemannian, yeah, nonsense.
It's
You even have a
mathematical.
contradiction
Riemannian
within
force space is
you.
mathematical.
You even have a contradiction within that force space itself, within both the relativities, special and general. They can't be happening at the same time at the same location. You can't have special relativity is restricted to flat space-time. General relativity, it's not flat anywhere.
Can I point
Can't be
something
flat and
out?
not flat. You can't have a force and not a force. Like there's so many contradictions when you start going through it. It's crazy.
Can I point out a big thing as to why Einsteinian gravity supposedly took over from Newtonian? It's a very important
Yes,
reason.
because we couldn't measure the orbit, but you tell us why
No,
why you
that's
think it
never
is.
been the reason. I know that's also true, but I mean that they don't care. Now, why it didn't work is because if you think of gravity as a force, then you deal with the solar system problem, the three-body problem, and that is that when there's forces that are influencing each other directly, then as soon as there's more than two bodies that are doing it, it becomes completely unpredictable and does not, under any circumstances, lead to what we would perceive as stable orbits. And that is the reason why they had to go away from Newtonian physics. Not because they didn't have any physical evidence, right? They'll make up shit. It's very easy. No, it's because mathematical, it wouldn't work out. They had to arrange the solar system from a different mathematical understanding, and that is that they just only calculate one body attracting another, and they
I mean, that's
compartmentalize. Hold on, they compartmentalize that attraction with every two bodies, because as soon as you unleash the body's attractive powers to all the other bodies, which would logically happen with Newtonian gravity, it would immediately destabilize in a very short time. It's a very notorious mathematical problem.
All right, real quick. I only got a second.
All
right, man. I only got 1 second. That's a neat idea, all the stuff you said. But GR came directly after they couldn't measure the orbit. They were like, oh my God, why couldn't we measure that? We got to figure out a way to make us moving at a constant speed in a straight line so we can justify us not measuring it. Einstein comes out with GR, geodesics, and that's the reason why we're not able to measure it. Because if we were actually curving, you'd be able to measure it. There'd be you know what I'm saying? You would have measured it with the Sagnac or Michelson-Morley or one of those things.
Yeah, it all came around the time of interferometry and trying to measure Earth's orbit around the sun, which has never actually been empirically measured. And they tried to hide what was taking place by claiming that they disproved the ether, and then in comes Einstein with his relativistic mindset and put everybody in this, conundrum that we're currently in, but we never want to actually go back and figure out if that was an incorrect path to go down and see if we can start over. Because if you want to start everything that's being talked about it's like having a double or a triple pendulum. The chaos that ensues when you try to swing one of those around, it's never consistent. It's an inconsistent pattern.
Chaotic pendulums are dope.
Yeah.
Yo, chaotic pendulums are dope.
Yeah.
Why is that never consistent though? You'd think that would be like physics would demand that the same thing would just keep happening if you let it drop from the same height in the same spot every time. You figure there'd be some physical consistency there because the same physical thing's happening every time. Chaotic pendulums are dope, bro.
Yeah, but it's because there's different forces simultaneously influencing one another, right? When there's just a ball swinging, that's basically one system that's happening. It's one back and forth set of forces. and that remains stable and then becomes like very repeating. But as soon as there's like more than two bodies, like chaos starts to ensue, and that's why you got that.
Can I read the
that thing.
Can I read the Wheeler definition on relativity?
Yes, read from the scriptures, Dysla. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Flip here to Job 2. Relativity is still a meager theory after all these decades and mostly disproven. It attempted to supplement the ether by ignorant reification of space and time as actual entities which are malleable and influence matter in fields. Not that relativity defined a field. And then he goes on to say space has no properties, like Tesla said, and time is merely a measure. Neither of these can be warped or acted upon by things, nor space being a terminal for any field modality. Quote, this is a quote by Tesla. He says, Einstein's relativity work is a magnificent mathematical garb which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blinded to the underlying errors. The theory is like a beggar clothed in purple womb, ignorant people take for a king, end quote. I'll leave it there. I got a few more quotes, but I'll leave it there. But yeah, Tesla vehemently foamed at the mouth on space-time and relativity. Completely refuted it, dude.
Einstein even basically says within relativity, he's been quoted as saying like space-time with no ether is like untenable, right? I forget the quote, but basically space-time without physicality is untenable. But
I think it was his letters to Bentley. I think I have that quote by him. But yeah, he talks about the ether for sure.
Yeah, so it's my opinion that the ether and quantum mechanics are actually the same thing. So the ether is basically just a quantum field.
There is only one field, just different octaves, if you want to think of it in a musical sense of the
modalities.
Same field. Yeah, different modalities. It's a good way to put it.
But yeah, correct. Yeah, there's only one fundamental field, and then kind of like
don't you think there's
liquid water would be the field of water, even though you have ice and steam and liquid water, all three being one and the same thing. The only difference is their expression due to temperature and pressure mediation alone. So it's no different for light, magnetism, and electricity. All three being one and the same thing, just different expressions of the one thing. So yeah, there you go.
But what about the gravity field? Wouldn't that be like a different field?
There's no such thing as a gravity field. Gravity doesn't exist. We're not denying the fact that things fall when you drop them, but to call that gravity, what are you really saying? How do you identify gravity? Is it a particle? Is it a gravity well? Is it the bending and warping of space-time? How do you perceive gravity?
I mean, to me, the bending of space-time makes the most sense.
Well, let's break that down. How do you bend and manipulate something that's not actually a thing? Space is the privation of a thing. It's the absence of material. And time is a convention. Time is a measure of magnitude. It's not actually a thing whatsoever. So we've got two things that aren't things that you're going to merge together and now manipulate. How does that work?
The funny thing is they always depict that in some sort of lattice work, right? A grid being warped by a mass put inside of it, which isn't necessarily far from the truth if you understand that that lattice work that they're depicting theoretically is in reality a lattice work between the magnetic and the dielectric and the interplay between the two. So it's not far from the truth. They just remove the truth of the physicality or the energetic nature of the singular field in which we reside in.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's actually my opinion that time and entropy are the same thing. Time only goes forward, entropy only increases.
Do inches go forward or backwards?
Inches can go both directions. But that's time and entropy can only go one direction.
They go upside down.
Can we manipulate inches?
Upside down.
You cannot manipulate entropy.
Hell yeah. Lorentz inches. You can manipulate inches, the Lorentz contraction.
Right. The only way that you can manipulate that inch, right? Because it has to have a measure against it. So if the inch no longer becomes the standard, then it's no longer an inch, because the inch is just a standard or a measure in which something is laid against. So the same is with time. So objects in motion, movement, change is measured by what we call time, and we've broken down into standard increments that we've agreed upon. There is no way to manipulate a standard agreed upon measurement. You can't. Time isn't a thing. Time is a measure.
Time consumes all things. You cannot escape time. The future is on the other side of infinity. We're always traveling towards the future, but we never are there.
All right, dude. Are you reading fortune cookies?
Well, this is why the occult have a worship for Saturn or Father Time, because they place that as the dictator in this world reality, right? They put that as their most high.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's not just time. They also worship the physical world.
Yep, that too. But if you understand the other conception of a creator, you understand that that creator is outside of space and time.
I disagree with that. There's
beginning and
three
end,
fundamental
right?
forces.
The alpha and the omega. So in order to create this realm and the restrictions that bind the laws of nature and the laws of God that we exist in, the creator is outside of those. Has to be, fundamentally, logically. So the people that worship this world, yes, they have a worship of time and worship of the creation as opposed to the creator. I would agree. But time is not a thing. Never has been, never will be.
So, they say that before the Big Bang, we actually existed in a state where entropy was zero.
That's a cool story. Yeah, it's like give the scientists one miracle, and then they'll construct your whole reality.
But you realize for entropy to be equal to zero, that means reality has to be perfectly ordered. That means reality is perfect. There is no flaw. So that means it is pure mathematics. The only thing that can be perfect is a perfect circle.
Perfect. Pure mathematics, as if now we get to worship and placing mathematics on a pedestal as well, claiming that like math is some sort of perfect reality, when again, mathematics is just a way to lay measure, to calculate, to useful tool.
Where does mathematics exist in nature? Truth seek.
What do you mean? Mathematics is the only thing that exists. Everything is math.
Can you point to the number 3 in nature? How about the number 2?
Yeah, it's because we live in a fallen world. Like I just said, when we fell from the Garden of Eden, we're no longer in a perfect world. We're no longer in a pure mathematical world. That's where the math started.
How would you describe a perfect 2?
I'd say math is just a convention that describes the world around us, but ultimately doesn't exist. That's my take on math. It's very useful, but math has never explained anything, nor will it ever, because that's not the job of math. It's just a descriptor. That's it. Real simple, real sweet, short.
It's a language.
You guys are not understanding. For entropy to be equal to 0, everything has to be perfect.
And there's no evidence that exists.
The only system that's perfect like that is math.
Yeah, so mathematically, you could have an ideal situation, but in reality, you can't. Math can.
I wouldn't say math is perfect. I mean, we've got all kinds of like running numbers that never get anywhere. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, how are you defining perfect if math in your worldview is perfect? That's a riddle.
Yeah, it's perfect. Everything fits together perfectly, and it's infinite.
You can mathematically describe a perfect circle, but you cannot have one in reality. So math isn't reality.
Why are there so many paradoxes in math if it's perfect?
Because we live in the fallen world. As soon as entropy started increasing, as soon as entropy was greater than 0, that's when we fell out of the Garden of Eden. That's when we fell from grace.
So that's what created the paradoxes?
Yeah.
Okay, so math was perfect, but it's no longer perfect?
What paradoxes are you?
Can you explain to me how math becomes perfect with 0 entropy, and what does reality look like with 0 entropy?
Because for there to be 0 entropy, that means it is a perfectly ordered state.
What does that look
order.
Like? Perfect. So perfect order. What does perfect order look like?
It's just math. It's just
a void.
I would say like I would say it looks like everything's the same. I would give an example as a. All right.
Would it be still?
Hold on, let's let Jeremy make a point. Jeremy's trying to make a point. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I would give a perfect entropy. I would say get a hot cup of tea or something, a hot cup of water, put on a table. The table on the outside is the same. Let it sit there. Table on the outside is the same temperature. Boom. There's no entropy happening, right? It's all happened.
No, there still is, because there's going to be effects that are going to take place. So there's no such thing as zero entropy. Zero entropy, everything would cease to exist because everything is in motion. In order to have any type of solid anything, you have to have movement. You have to have energy. Everything is comprised of moving energy. If everything
not only that, but you also have a disequilibrium. Like if everything ceased to move, right? Like if we had a reference frame, an absolute inertial reference frame, dude, like entropy would go out the window.
Everything would cease to exist.
I hear you saying that everything's vibrating. There couldn't be any movement. I hear you. There wouldn't be any matter.
No, everything would go away in a sense of move away from the reality in which we experience and move towards something else.
Yeah, like in the state, time and space wouldn't even exist. So things would not even be changing because this is before time even exists. It's the realm of
existence. Yeah. Space doesn't. Yeah, space is not a thing, bro. So I mean, depending on how you're going to define existence, to say space is a thing, I mean, we'd have to make sure that adds up. Because in my opinion, space is not a thing. Space is just a volume between things.
Yeah, so in my view, the only things that exist are infinite. So like pi and these sort of numbers exist, but like the universe, it's the limit of infinity, but it's not actually infinity. And that's the fundamental duality.
Pi is just math, though. Pi is just math, though. That's not real. That's abstract.
Yeah, so the fundamental...
3.14.
Guys.
It never ends, bro. It never ends. Sorry.
So the fundamental yin and yang is the infinite and the finite. That is where the fundamental duality arises. And that's where creation comes from, is all these things that we think are infinite or that we think are finite are actually the limit of infinity. And it shows that fundamentally actually everything is infinite, but it's this illusion of finite.
All right, I got a 10 foot 2x4 from Home Depot. That's infinite. It's at the edge of infinity.
No, I'm saying the universe, you can look into infinite space. You can look into infinite time.
Infinite time? In the future, like Doctor Strange?
That's a bold claim.
As far as we know, we're approaching infinity, aren't we? Time just goes forward. It doesn't go backwards.
As far as I'm aware, the human eye unaided is highly limited. I think it's roughly 50 to 60 miles, depending on the conditions. Right? Okay. Looking out horizontally, but you're talking about looking up into the cosmos, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you're actually from the mainstream model, you're not actually looking at the stars. The stars are coming to meet your eye. You're not even, the stars you're seeing aren't even, potentially don't even exist at this moment. You're seeing something that happened millions of years ago that's traveling to your eye. I mean, this is the mainstream model, mind you.
I believe this. Yes, that's correct.
Right.
The light is traveling from the star to your eye. Yeah.
That's what they claim. So you're not actually seeing the star. The star is coming to meet your eye. So to say that you can see indefinitely into infinity and beyond, I don't know, man. I don't know if that really adds up, dude. I don't know if that's actually the case.
So you think the universe has an edge?
Well, from the mainstream perspective, yes. They claim that space is expanding. At the outer edge of the universe, it is expanding. But
it's expanding into infinity. It's approaching infinity.
Well, I used to have an argument for this expanding thing and infinity thing. I can't remember it, though.
I'm kind of curious because I've never really heard an answer from any Glover as to what space is expanding into. They simply say, we don't know. But for space to be expanding into something, space would have to be homogeneous, same with the thing it's expanding into. So it's just, I don't know, man.
The prerequisite for expansion is you have to have space for the thing to expand into, otherwise you don't get expansion.
But space itself is the expanse. It's the volume between two objects. Like, you don't have space without volume. So to say that the volume is expanding, it would have to be expanding into something. I mean, you'd have to make a logical, rational conclusion as to what is taking place at the edge of the universe. To me, that's the Glober firmament. You know, they make fun of the enclosed geocentric stationary, half-ass model that we got, but at the end of the day, bro, they've got their own firmament too. They just don't want to talk about it.
I think here's the argument. If it's expanding, if it's infinite, then it just goes forever, right? The universe just doesn't stop. So if it's expanding, it has to be getting bigger.
Yeah.
Like if it's already infinite, you can't get bigger than infinite. It just goes if it's forever. That's the argument for that. You can't have it expanding and be infinite at the same time. Yeah.
Right. It's illogical. That's the thing, truth. Like, I commend you for trying, but whatever you're going to subscribe to, dude, has to be logical and rational, bro. Otherwise, it's an absurd belief, dude. And that's kind of what we're up against right now is these absurd beliefs that we're picking apart daily. So just saying that, be careful.
Thank you. You as well.
It can't be infinite and expanding, because if it's expanding, that means it's getting bigger, right? But if it's infinite, it goes forever. There's no way for it to get bigger. It's already going.
It's approaching infinity, just like there are infinite numbers, right? But you can always keep counting higher.
Dude, approaching infinity doesn't mean anything though. Like I have a 2x4 from Home Depot. It's 10 feet. Is it approaching infinity? How far out?
Is it growing? Is it growing? That seems like most objects do not grow like that.
How long would it have to be for it to be approaching infinity?
I'll say 7 inches.
It doesn't need a length. That's irrelevant. What's important is that it's constantly increasing.
So if I went and attached another 2x4 to that 2x4, and now it's 20 feet long, and then I do another one, and now it's 30 feet long, and now I got a 50-foot long one, I'm approaching infinity?
You're thinking in terms of objects, but you should instead think in terms of numbers.
Just admit it's not infinite. Dude, just admit it's not infinite. You already stated it. Just say it.
Say what?
It's not infinite.
What's not infinite?
Oh my god.
The universe? The universe, I think, is infinite.
Oh my god, this guy.
Yeah, but it can't be infinite and expanding. We just went over that. So you don't think it's expanding then?
Like, infinity is a very abstract thing. What happens when you do infinity plus 1? It's still infinity.
There is no infinity plus 1. You can't do it. You already have all the numbers there. There's nothing
Right,
to add.
because
I don't know.
logic breaks
Are you saying because I told my mom I loved her infinity plus 10, so I mean.
Infinity's not a number. The problem is infinity's not a number. What were you trying to add? It's like, what's an apple plus 2?
That's 2 apples, bro.
No, an apple plus
infinity
number 2.
to the infinity to the infinity, dude.
Like, we're not little kids, like, oh, infinity plus 1. Like, bro, that's not a real, we're adults now, and that's not a real number that you can add.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain to you guys, but...
So if your kid tells you he loves you infinity plus 1, that's the answer you're gonna give him, Jeremy? You're just gonna fucking shit on his grade?
You gotta keep it real.
Right? Nah, but he does have a point, Truth. I mean, infinity is just a concept, dude. Like, is there anything in nature that you can show as being infinite?
Just, you can't, hold on, you can't add something to infinity. Like, it's not a number. You can't add a number to an apple. What do you get with it? An apple, what's an apple plus 1? That's like with saying infinity plus 1. Just, you can't, hold on, you can't add something to infinity. Like, it's not a number. You can't add a number to an apple. What do you get with it? An apple, what's an apple plus 1? That's like with saying infinity plus 1.
All things that are real are infinite. The soul is infinite. It's eternal.
So my 2x4 at Home Depot, is that infinite?
No.
Well, there's a good.
So not everything.
It doesn't have a soul. Right? What's the difference between eternal and infinite?
Eternal just is infinite time.
I see eternal as no beginning, no end in time.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
infinite, I don't have anything to weigh upon it, dude. Like, other than running numbers, there's really no example in nature of something being infinite. Like,
can something become eternal? But anyways, that's another topic.
The soul is infinite. What were you saying, Eden?
Oh, just a side question. Can something become eternal?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the infinite would be no beginning, no end. But something could have a beginning but no end and be eternal. It could be made eternal, like the guy's talking about.
I think so. Yeah. Thank you.
This topic is becoming eternal.
Yeah.
I think if you could download our brain into a computer and keep that electricity on forever, it could be infinite, eternal.
Yeah, and is our mind? Do we have infinite space, or is there going to be a point where it says disk full?
I'm already full, bro. I'm full. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I could do it anymore.
Maybe just full plus 1.
Well, I gotta say, dude, it's probably one of the best combos I heard in like the last week. So good job, Truth, for sparking that up. If that was you, and I really enjoyed Napalm's input. Jeremy, not so much, but everyone else was pretty good.
You're off the chain.
Some things never change.
I just called Home Depot and they don't sell Infinity 2x4s, so I'm a little disappointed.
You want to see some infinite wood?
You got to ask them if the 2x4.
I'll show my wife later.
You got to ask them if the 2x4 is approaching infinity. Ask him what the 2x4 plus 1 is.
Okay, deal. You got any idea how much that cost?
At the price of wood these days, it's gonna be a lot.
Gotcha.
It's gonna be infinite plus $1.
In this spiritual battle, it seems like we have infinite ammo. Thankfully.
You got the cheat code on?
Yeah. The 66 filled with hollow tips. Well,
Hey, don't go gangster rap on us.
No, it's freedom rap. It's all about freedom. So many people still in bondage, the globe bondage.
Years. Last time I talked to Jin was probably like 5-6 years ago. You were in one of my YouTube videos. It's hilarious with that Scottish woman freaking out. You remember that, Jin? It was like, I don't know, one of those 8-hour or 24-hour streams before there was such a thing as 24-hour streams. And shut up, Bean. It was you, me, some Scottish woman. Shit, Jibby Jedi was on that shit too. And I pissed off that Scottish lady because she was like, "What's the Earth?" I'm like, "Oh, it's obviously some sort of biological entity." And then everybody on the panel just started freaking out.
That's always fun. That's a conversation starter.
It's incredible. And then somebody edited it, the clip. It's like a 8 to 10 minute clip, and they added like pictures and music and her freaking out and being like literally throwing her arms up in the air and like a crazy inflatable balloon guy, whatever those things are. And yeah, even Jedi Jedi was like, he was kind of ticked off too. I'm like, I just said it so nonchalantly. Kind of like, well, yeah, obviously the Earth is some sort of biological entity, and I don't claim to know what it is, but it's probably that. I don't fucking know. Do you know what the sun is? If you claim to know what the sun is, then I don't know, you're probably full of shit. That's why I quit debating. It's just the same talking points over and over again. They're just Borgs, glow Borgs, just glombies, fucking globozos. Just so boring. They don't know anything about anything. Do you know what the sun is? If you claim to know what the sun is, then I don't know, you're probably full of shit. That's why I quit debating. It's just the same talking points over and over again. They're just Borgs, glow Borgs, just glombies, fucking globozos. Just so boring. They don't know anything about anything. It's funny too, telling people that I quit debating because that's all they want to do then is like argue with me and debate me. They're like, why'd you quit debating? I'm like, because you guys are stupid and I win 95%. Or I usually say I win 100% of the time, so there's no point in me debating anymore when I know I'm going to win. It's like there's nothing you could tell me that I don't already know and haven't already researched.
That's pretty fun.
I mean, it's not a true statement. I mean, obviously, I have a lot more to learn. There's way more intelligent people than me in the flat Earth community. But it's like, I mean, even with me taking like 5 years off and just studying nonsense, and it's like, even if I take over 5 years off and purposely study nonsense, it's like it's like I gave you 5 years to catch up, 10 years almost, and it's like you guys are still dumb. Like how are you still dumb when I stopped researching for 5 years?
Well, that's the key word. Sometimes he or the guys, because this could be a perilous endeavor, especially for women. They're targeted relentlessly if they come out as a flat earther.
Yeah, but for women, it'd be a lot easier to win people over, especially if you can articulate it properly.
Yeah, I agree. They could be influential. That's why I look for when I try to look for as many women as I can to get on the flat earth team. Because even when they took down slavery, when there were politicians who made their livelihood on slavery, essentially in the UK, it took brave women to literally go on and try to not purchase from the sugar manufacturers that hired slaves. So women were a key aspect in the battle against slavery. It wasn't just the men.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Feminism movement is definitely dying down. Those mutants with blue, purple hair and green hair. It's like, dear God, man, how long is this grift gonna last for?
No, but don't you kind of like the blue hair? Like, it's kind of hot, like in a crazy way.
No. In nature, poisonous animals are like brightly colored, so I guess I appreciate that. They're warning me to stay the
What
fuck
about
away
like
from them.
pink? What about like pink hair? Like, that's kind of cute.
I just said I don't like green, purple haired, blue haired, and it's like, especially if it's multicolored. If it's one color, maybe. But if you're combining all the colors, yeah, that's like you're a poisonous dart frog to me. A poisonous human frog. You sound like you have blue hair.
But sometimes when you interact with the poisonous dart frog, it can give you a psychedelic trip.
No, that's a toad. That's the psychedelic toad god.
Yeah, but aren't those brightly colored also?
No.
Oh, it's not.
I'm not aware of. I'm sure there's species that are brightly colored that you can tie up and then get them all scared, like a adrenochrome child, and then wipe all their excretions off and put it onto some sort of wooden Q-tip thing, and then burn your arm, and then put that shit in your arm, and then you trip. It's a rite of passage with certain tribes and shit like that for the men to turn, or for the boys to turn into men. Some tribes put DMT. Some tribes put DMT on their mother's nipples when they're children, when they're like 2 or 3 days old, they're sucking on DMT nipples.
Are you invoking Karl Marx? He believed the same thing. He believed that children should be exposed to opioids as early as 12 years of age to open their mind.
Unreal.
Dang. Opioids? Nah. DMT.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's in his writings, buddy. Go take a look. There's a book on Google Books called The Prince of Darkness, and it's actually a book about Karl Marx.
Sounds like an evil book.
Who wrote it? Did he actually know Karl Marx, or is it just speculation?
It's a history book on his beliefs and his practices, his life and his death, but what happened to his children.
Dang. Opioids? Nah. DMT.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It's in his writings, buddy. Go take a look. There's a book on Google Books called The Prince of Darkness, and it's actually a book about Karl Marx.
Sounds like an evil book.
Who wrote it? Did he actually know Karl Marx, or is it just speculation?
It's a history book on his beliefs and his practices, his life and his death, but what happened to his children, all his belief systems. It's just a documentary.
Karl Marx was a very sick man, sick and twisted individual.
Not only was he sick, you should see how his kids ended their lives. Drug addicts, you name it, man.
All right, on the better topics. Let's get back to the coffee nipples or whatever you've got going on over here.
Oh my lord!
I was just throwing it out there. I don't know, but yeah, Marxism. I don't really know much about Marxism or Karl Marx, to be honest. Certainly has inspired a lot of boring books, though. Or Karl Marx, to be honest. Certainly has inspired a lot of boring books, though.
I heard there was a rite of passage where they take those, I think they're called bullet ants in the Amazon, the ones that sting you to hell.
Put a glove on.
Yeah, they weave a glove out of some freaking leaves, and they basically stick the ass end of the ant weave it into the glove. So it's just a glove full of needles, and you're just getting it. I don't know how long they got to keep the glove on for. I know there's like a certain amount of time. I don't know. Gio could probably tell you about it. I'm sure he knows about that stuff. But
that's one of the most painful bites in nature, apparently.
Yeah, supposedly, right? Yeah. And then there's another rite of passage for young men in Africa, where they've got to run across the backs of all these herded up steers, or I don't know if it's. I think they're just kind of wild. I don't remember the whole deal. It was a long time ago since I saw it. But the dude's got to make it from start to finish, and if he falls in between, not only is he going to get the horns from all those.
Oh.
I don't know if they were bison or steer or what they were, but it was some kind of horned animal, and they were moving, dude. They weren't just standing around; they were freaking moving.
Dude, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not. I'm glad I'm in America, bro, where I could identify as whatever I want.
Yeah, we're just raised on poison foods and dumb people, I guess.
Like I could be a Toys R Us kid for the rest of my life if I wanted, if I want to do that.
Man, yeah, make mental institutions.
Who's going to fault you for being a Toys R Us kid?
What was that?
Who's going to fault you for being a Toys R Us kid? Stop.
Oh, I'm trying to think. What was it? What was that old saying on the back of those No Fear shirts? He who has the most toys wins or some shit, or dies the happiest. I don't remember how it went.
Gather your treasures up for heaven, not here on earth.
Kembo is a practice of a certain Amazon frog substance of it that's burned into the underarm that has healing effects, and by coincidence the son of my neighbor did it. And what they say about Kembo is that you meet your love and you find your happiness, and both things happened to that son.
I mean, I can see myself doing that someday. It just has to be with the right shaman.
Yeah, of course.
Choose your shaman wisely, because those people are, and not all shamans are good people.
Yeah, apparently he did, so it worked for him.
Yeah, I want to meet the Toad God. I want to say thanks and bestow some. How can I help you, Toad God? Can I do anything to help you?
It's not a toad; it's a frog.
Okay. Well, I'm mistaken then. I thought it was a toad.
The name of the frog god is sometimes referred to as Pepe.
That's fucking funny.
Oh yeah, Pepe, dude, I lost so much money on that damn coin.
Pepe coin, you should have known.
Well, I did know, but I thought I was gonna do a couple pumps and dumps, and it never did another pump. I thought I was gonna do like a Doge or something. I missed out.
How's your Jesus coin doing, Dicelo? You tried to get us all on board that Jesus was gonna save us. How's the Jesus coin?
You can thank what the fuck is his name? Chris. I don't remember. Let me see here. He's a YouTuber. One of the guys I follow. No.
Metric, as they cannot be unrolled. Some of the most often used non-developable. Why can't I hit the plus button in the chat to post a pic? Never mind. I'm gonna read it right now, straight off of Wiki. This is exactly what I've been saying. Spheres. Here we go. Some of the most often used non-developable surfaces are: first one, spheres. Spheres are not developable surfaces under any metric, as they cannot be unrolled onto a plane. Booyah! Right on Wiki.
Yeah, but that's just common sense. I don't know why he's refuting it.
I don't know why this is because he just told me that if something's not 2D, if something's 2D, it has to be on a plane. And he said the surface of a sphere is 2D, and now here we are with the surface of a sphere not being able to be unrolled onto a plane.
That dude was just trolling, bro.
That's a body bag. No, all the Globers will argue this with me, though. All the Globers will argue that the surface of a sphere is 2D, and they have a good argument, kind of.
All right, ante up, boys. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20, 30. How long till he gets back?
I got 14 minutes.
Jeremy, technically he's correct because the surface is considered technically to be two-dimensional.
I'm going 25.
I hear you, but so you're saying you can have something be 2D and it has length, width, and height. That's what you'd have to say now after the exercise we just went through about how you can't put them on a plane.
Here's the problem.
No.
So here's the problem. The 2 dimensions can stand alone. 2 dimensions can stand alone on their own, moving forever in their directions. Okay. The moment that you apply curvature, they're now connected to a center. They're in a radius value. You cannot say that's 2-dimensional. The radius value is part of that.
Yep, that's why I don't disagree with that. That's why when you're talking about like a spherical triangle, you no longer have the normal like a squared plus b squared equals c squared relationship. It's like a plus b plus c minus r, and that's squared. It's you have to factor in a radius.
Yeah, but do you hear the craziness you have to go through to say the surface of a sphere is 2D? You see my argument, right? It's pretty solid.
Yeah, but like at a certain scale, it's considered two-dimensional.
Geometrically, though, it wouldn't be because that's what I'm saying. So now you have to say 2D can be length, width, and height.
Right. That's why
the surface of the sphere has to have that.
Right. Like small distances, you can treat it as two-dimensional, but on a large scale, it becomes three-dimensional. This is why like the Globers are always like, let's measure the world with a theodolite from the furthest distance that we can, and then we'll prove that there's curvature. It's like, no, that's your spherical geometry of the way that you visually see the world. It's not measuring.
I'm a little confused.
Curvature.
So how are you saying there's 3 dimensions when you're looking at something two-dimensionally?
A sphere is a three-dimensional object. That surface can be treated as two-dimensional on small scales.
Yeah, I just got in here. I'm not sure how
but mathematically and geometrically, it's not though.
Right.
Yeah, he's saying the reason the Earth looks flat to you is because you're on a small scale, but on a large scale, it actually is a globe. I think
Okay,
that's what he's
that's good. Okay.
No.
That's not what you're saying.
I mean, technically, the surface is considered two-dimensional. The overall object is three-dimensional. There is no transposition between that surface into strict planar Euclidean geometry. That's why there's different non-Euclidean geometries that you have to use.
Yeah, the surface of a sphere is three-dimensional. It's not two-dimensional.
No, the sphere itself is three-dimensional. The surface is technically
sphere is, but you can draw a circle, and that's two-dimensional.
Dude, you have to think, bro. If you think the surface of a sphere is 2D, you now have to believe that something can be 2D whilst also being in all 3 dimensions. That doesn't even.
Yeah. Well, I think he's talking.
If you're measuring it in
perfect sense, because anything
if you're measuring it in 3 dimensions, yeah, if you're measuring it in 3 dimensions, you're not going like as you measure at distance, you are no longer able to use straight Euclidean geometry. This is why the Globers always try to say just look, based on trigonometry, this is why the world is curved, because I'm using straight trigonometry and I'm making measurements over distance, completely trying to get away from the fact that the overall shape of a sphere would be 3-dimensional. So they're trying to use 2-dimensional geometry over a 3-dimensional measurement. The surface itself is 2 dimensions, but in order to measure it at any long distance, it no longer becomes a 2-dimensional object because you're bringing in the 3-dimensional shape of the sphere. Hopefully that makes sense in some way, shape, or form, you guys.
I kind of see what you're saying. I think I was just confused, and maybe I was just...
Because the further you get away from a small portion of that surface over a distance, the more you bring in the 3-dimensional reality of the shape. And if you're not factoring that in, you're going to come to an incorrect conclusion that, well, it's also mixed with the way that we visually see the world, right? Because we know that I can walk those train tracks and they're never going to touch, but I can take a measurement of those train tracks as far as I can see in the distance, and I would never move my theodolite left to right to get any type of measurement in degrees left to right, meaning it comes to a point, but that's only optically, visually, because it's a visual 3-dimensional space. Hopefully that makes sense.
I mean, but for the surface of a sphere, it's immediately 3D. It's not like on a short scale or a small scale. You have the surface of a sphere, and you try to put it on a plane. It's only going to touch at one point.
Yeah, you could depict different parts of the sphere two-dimensionally, but when you put it all together in different layers, it's a three-dimensional. A sphere is 3 dimensions, but a circle is 2 dimensions. So if you're measuring on a sphere, there's going to be curvature.
Right. This would be like if you have such a gradually sloping object, and you lay a really small flat object on that very large, gradually sloping object. That extremely small flat object will appear as though there is no deviation, meaning it'll appear as though it's laying flat on that surface to a certain point.
Yeah, but that's only if you zoom in infinitely. You need to be infinitely zoomed in, which is not possible.
Right, but any surface of an object is always treated as two-dimensional. It's when you're bringing the whole shape that it becomes three-dimensional. The surface is always treated as two-dimensional. But you use different...
Not negative. No, negative. Unless you think 2D things can be in 3D. If you say the surface of a sphere is 2D, Napalm, if you say the surface of a sphere is 2D, you now have to say that it's 2D whilst being in 3D.
Mathematically, it's a two-dimensional surface, but it has to be measured over distance in 3 dimensions. This is why you have Euclidean, non-Euclidean. Here's the thing. Can you give me anything two-dimensional in reality?
No, but when we're talking about geometry,
hold on, bro. I got it. It's that crazy color purple we were talking about earlier.
Oh my God.
Supposedly, mainstream claims that this Hans purple is two-dimensional.
Napalm, no, I can't give you anything 2D in reality, but we're talking about geometry though, and in geometry there are 2D things. You know what I'm saying? There's no surface of anything in reality. We're talking about just geometry.
I'm gonna post it in live stream in case you don't believe.
As I'm saying, can something be 2D and have 3D and have 3 dimensions as well?
No.
Of course not. No, that's the surface of a sphere. It has to be in 3 dimensions because you can't flatten it out on a plane.
Yeah, you're right. You could depict it, maybe. You could try to depict it.
They make a good argument though, because the argument against this though is not bad, because what SI units are you going to measure the surface of a sphere in?
It's all relative.
Maybe you can measure it in nautical miles.
You measure it in square meters or something. That's
all right, so I'm posting
2D measurement. An area. You're looking for an area basically. You know what I'm saying? But you can't even have a square meter on the surface of a sphere because you can't have a square on the surface of a sphere.
Yeah, that's why you need nautical miles, so that the measurement itself is bending with the sphere.
I just posted it in live stream 1 if you want to look at it. But they claim that when they super cool this Hans purple pigment, that it eliminates the 3rd dimension.
Man, it's crazy.
Probably got that from Ken Wheeler. Daislow's Ken Wheeler's little nephew.
Well, the problem with Ken Wheeler is he thinks everything is magnetism. And
that purple is magnetic.
Yeah, he believes in the electric universe theory, which unfortunately is incorrect.
Oh, we used to have a real good electric universe guy in here called Grim. I don't know who remembers him, but he was a Glober, but he was electric universe guy.
Yeah, he's still around sometimes in the chat, I think.
Nah, not Grim. I ain't seen him in forever.
All right. I thought he pops into text chat every now and again.
Maybe I don't do text chat like that. If you see him, tell him I said holla.
An interesting thing about Ken Wheeler is he actually says space and time don't exist. Maybe he's correct on that. It's an interesting concept. Daislo, if you want to talk more about that.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted. My kid just got home. Yeah, you want me to read it off to you? What it's talking about? It says there's the terracotta warriors basically that were discovered. It says that basically they were covered in that pigment. But basically they're saying that at temperatures approaching absolute zero, coupled with high magnetism, the pigment's magnetic waves no longer exist in the 3rd dimension. Read on if you hate Z-axis, who doesn't? And then, yeah, it just kind of goes into it, but I posted it all there, so I wasn't bullshitting.
2-dimensional waves, that's an impossibility, man.
No, I'm not saying I believe any of this shit. I'm just saying, like, these are the claims. You asked for it, I'm going to give you the Glover Troll stuff.
Yeah, but like going back to the 2-dimensional surface of a sphere, like the reason it can be considered 2 dimensions is because you can describe it by like two parameters. You might not be using length and width, but you can use latitude and longitude.
And you could describe gravity as a force, right?
Right, but so latitude and longitude, what's the third dimension?
I could describe my car as a Lamborghini.
Yeah, but it's using a lat long, right, which are 2 dimensions.
That's the rebuttal I just gave. Yes, that's the best rebuttal is what SI units are you going to measure this in? You know, you're not going to use cubic for something. If you're trying to fill up a cylinder or the volume of the sphere, you do it in cubic meters or whatever. But for this, you would just do area, lat long, whatever.
It can be described with 2 like coordinates, right? Instead of length and width, it's described as lat and long.
I hear you, bro, but it's still in 3 dimensions, though. You can't say it's 2D while it's in 3 dimensions.
100%. 100%. I agree.
All right, so you concede I win. All right, thank you.
Still a 2-dimensional surface. Because it can be described in strictly 2 dimensions of latitude and longitude. But either way, hopefully you understand what I'm talking about.
No, I get it. I've had this argument dozens of times, probably. That's the best argument against it, though. But I still don't think it's that good. But it is the best argument against it.
But here's the problem, though. That's not a true argument. So it's not true. Lat long is a 2-dimensional coordinate system that works on a circle, and then you have a bunch of different lat longs to build your sphere. But one singular latitude longitude is just circular, not spherical, right? That's plane.
It's not planar, but it is 2-dimensional.
No, it is a plane. It's a plane. The singular latitude longitude by itself is on a plane. It's by building a series of them and saying that you've built a sphere by having greater, smaller ones. Anyways, just pointing that out.
Sure. But what do we do with the fact that visually something appears as though it's doing something that it's not over distance, where we have the appearance of parallel lines converging? We have the appearance of parallel surfaces converging to a singular point, when in reality, they don't. Why does that take place?
I don't know.
And if we wanted to measure...
That's a function of biology, isn't it? I mean, that's a biological function.
The spherical nature of the lens, like parallel lines in the lens end up being pointed towards the center.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it this way, right? The observer is a single point. So everything in the world is going to come down to that observer at a singular point. Think of that singular point as the inside of a sphere, meaning the observer has optical limitations that create a sphere around him or her. Because everything is being drawn to a singular point for the observer. So why would we strictly apply Euclidean geometry to non-Euclidean observations? I think if we did that, we would have a skewed view of reality. We would think that we're living on a ball. But I guess we all have a sphere of influence.
Yeah, we do, don't we? Flat Earth Society has members all around the globe. That's funny. I don't care who you are. That is funny.
Hello. Can you hear me?
But
Hello.
Funny. I don't care who you are. That is funny.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, your mic's pretty low.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out the settings on it. Is it better now?
You sound like you're in the bathroom and your phone's on the other side of the bathroom.
What about now?
It's a little better. What's up? Yeah, a little better.
So Napalm, they took the sphere of the eyeball and made it into a 3,959 mile globe Earth that you live on?
Pretty much. I mean, they're making optical measurements using like planar geometry to perspective. I don't know. It's just weird.
Well, I was thinking like that one I just posted at 43 after, where it's got like the point in front of the person, like where everything's converging. Were you saying that point in front of that person is like where everything is converging there? That is related, like that's like a 180-degree polarity from the person's viewpoint from where they are. It's like a reflective point, and then you have the sphere of vision all around you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, think of it this way: like you have a a limitation on how far you can see, and we know that objects that are known to be parallel to one another appear as though they converge as you get further away, right? So you have this convergence that takes place. So everything is obviously being drawn to a central point. Like if you mapped everything out on that drawing, like you took every little point on that sphere, you would have to draw it back to the individual's eye. And since you can only see 360 degrees around you, as well as above and below you, this effectively gives you a spherical shape that you're measuring everything to. It's creating your sphere.
Is it possible to view the world without a curved lens? Because I mean, you have cameras and human eyeballs, but is there any way to observe the world without this effect? Like where the train tracks wouldn't converge, they would just look parallel? Or is that just impossible?
I think that would be impossible because you would effectively be seeing forever, but you have a limitation, right? If you're trying to draw everything to a single point, you have a limitation. That's why, like, lots of people say, well, it's not because of the lens of the eye, because you can make a pinhole camera and you can get perspective through a pinhole. Well, yeah, it has to be a certain size aperture, and that aperture has to be like circular in order for you to get a non-distorted image. But is a distorted image an incorrect image? I guess that's a bigger question, right? What is a proper image? A proper image would be what we perceive the world to be, so something that is close to the way we perceive it. So if you have an extremely distorted image, because let's say your pinhole camera aperture is either too big for the distance between that and the surface that you have the photographic paper, or too small and too far away, however you want to factor that in, is that distorted image an incorrect image? What's correct?
So you think when they're claiming to get spherical measurements through theodolites and things, especially over long distance, they're basically just measuring the optical field and really not measuring the physical surface at all, or the actual physical world? It's really just like the optical field that's being observed and then kind of transferred and assumed into that the actual Earth has that shape.
Yeah, I mean, at small scale, it can be useful, but the further you get from the observer, the more distortion you have.
You think that's what these guys, like the surveyors that are doing some of the geodetic surveying as well? I mean, they're doing calculations as well, but I mean, like that guy Schubel, like he's so convinced he's measured Earth curve, like he really is, he really thinks he's done it.
Yeah, because it's the method that they use, right? Let's say they try to get a quote unquote triangle measurement from 3 mountaintops. Well, what they're doing is they're taking 3 different triangles and squishing those measurements into a singular triangle. But each observer point is going to be a different perspective.
They don't have a measurement of the spherical triangle. Subel said he was going to get them from the Department of Records at friggin' whatever halls of records in DC or something crazy. Like he never got them. You can't get them. They don't have it. Everything they do is geometrically impossible for their globe radius, down to reciprocal zenith angles, anything. Like almost, I mean, they get lucky once in a while, but it's almost always geometrically impossible.